Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, the belabored producer of the Salty Nerd Podcast, Matthew Kadish, coming at you today with my fantastic panel of nerds, as always, starting with Matt Vader 74. How you doing, buddy?
Avast, ye mateys.
Oh,
how
vast,
you be doing
avast.
today?
Yes.
Yeah. Avast.
Avast.
Oh my God. Yarr. Yarr. I wish I had a green kelp something to wrap around my beard and
Like
look
a
like
boa?
like a freaking Muppet. It is unreal. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute though. Good morning. Hi guys.
Good morning.
Hi chat.
Hi.
What's up, everybody?
Yo,
I'm almost caffeinated.
kicking it old school. I'm doing these
Kicking it
things,
old
bro.
school.
The Panera Chargers. It's literally liquid meth.
Listen, I decided that I can't afford $6 drinks.
No,
Three
no,
times
no.
a
I
day.
get them for free, bro.
Yeah, well, you're
Free.
lucky. So I'm making my own coffee in my Mr. Coffee machine downstairs.
I get it, but it's not
Old
luck.
school.
For $10 a month, I get unlimited drinks. I just walk in and fill it up.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, Panera is
Good
not
morning.
a sponsor of this.
No,
live
not at
stream.
all.
No, but
But
it's a great
apparently,
deal.
if you spend $10 a month, you can for every 2 hours you can go into a Panera and get a free
Have their
drink.
crappy coffee
Wow.
from Panera. Gross.
Dude, the Chargers are like, they should be illegal. There is so much caffeine in these things, dude. It's like, I listen, I drink a lot of Red Bull.
Yeah, you do.
You guys know that.
Yeah.
So like I have a high tolerance for caffeine and like uppers. And dude, I drink this stuff and I know immediately that there's an obscene amount of caffeine in this because I am flying. And if any drink can make me fly after I'm used to drinking 12 Red Bulls a day.
You know,
Yeah.
pretty soon they're going to outlaw caffeine and you're going to look like Raffy, sit on the ground, curled up in a little ball. It's like,
And
just
we
get
know
in the
that
eye.
Brian's caffeinated because he actually showed up early for the live
I
stream.
did.
That's right.
That's what
Wow.
that means.
But,
Yeah.
but he's here. He's queer. He's on liquid meth. Brian from the Popcast.
Ahoy, my mateys.
You guys have been
Ahoy.
putting out a lot of Star Trek content lately, and we're going to talk about Star Trek today.
It's
You excited?
never ending content farm over here, bro.
That's it.
In fact, your latest release had your boyfriend Terry Metalis on it himself.
Jesus. It's not my last three videos. My last three reviews of the episode reviews that popped on the main channel. Those all have Terry at the end talking about that particular episode and certain things. It's cool. A lot of people are missing that part because most people watch like the first like 60% of a video, they walk away. Well, the last 20% of our videos have actually Terry Metalis discussing the really cool points of that particular episode. It's cool.
Man, you're such a shill, Brian. Such a shill.
I'm
It is
such a shill.
unbelievable.
Disgusting.
I get
awful.
yelled at by my own for being a shill, and then I got yelled at for the people that like Discovery for saying Discovery sucks. Like I can't
Yeah,
win.
I know. I
Can't
know you
win.
can't.
Yeah, so, hopefully those Paramount checks clear. I hear they're not doing too well financially. And also, we are very lucky to have the casino man himself, Culture Casino, joining us today. How you doing, buddy?
Yar.
Yarr.
Yeah, I'm
Yar.
actually kind of I'm actually almost disappointed that I missed Seaweed the Mini Hut in the latest Mandalorian, but I'm sure we'll talk about it since I didn't watch the episode. But I'm glad to be here. I love hanging out. Brian is unusually caffeinated right now, so okay. Anyway,
Get on my
thanks for
level,
having me.
bro.
And coming to us from Valhalla is the All-Father himself, OMB Reviews. How's Lent going, buddy?
Oh, it's going great. It's always my favorite time of the year spiritually because I always take up things that I probably should be doing throughout the year, and I've already lost 10 pounds actually because of the practices that I'm taking up. So it's been great so far. So I hope everyone's Lent, if you're celebrating or participating, is also going well too. And it's always great to be on.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's great to have you all here. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. But before we do, just want to shout out to everyone who's currently in chat. The Orlando Shadow Dragon. So he started off things right by saying, "This a clickbait to get more subs or something?" LOL, JK. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Anthony Mark, good to see you, Anthony. One of our members. He's always at all of our live streams. We really appreciate his support. And then we got Danny's mom, Penny. She's in the chat. Nick Clark is in the chat. Whiskey Jack, another one of our members. Good to see you, Whiskey Jack. We've got Cheery Kane and Gavin Blackburn, our top super sticker donator. How you doing, Gavin? We've also got Richard Larson in the chat and Joker Voice, one of our most consistent donators. Hashtag keep tapping. Joker. We got Quantum Cat 76, Joey's Movie Blog, Chris Dennison, Shorty Short, Chris Retzlaff, the Astro Nerd Boy, a member of our $100 club. And that seems to be it. No, we got Fluffy Panda as well. We got Nick Stone, Keely Chow, and Tim Tringle Jr., William Demmers. Guys, thank you all so much for being here in the chat. We really appreciate you showing up and participating in the conversation. And before we get going, I just want to shout out our top contributors as always. So we got our $100 Club Super Chatters, Bob Dorsey, Scotty Dub, and the Astro Nerd Boy. Bob Dorsey is on record as being one of our top #1 super chat donators in one super chat. I believe it was like $101 or something like that. It's crazy. And then we got Joker Voice and Fluffy Panda, who are our most consistent donators. Thank you, Joker Voice and Fluffy. And then the top super thanks Patreon is Backyard TARDIS. He goes through our videos and leaves us super thanks. We really appreciate that. But our top contributor, the guy who has spent the most money on us so far, is none other than Scotty Dub. And we really appreciate Scotty and his support. He is fantastic.
Scotty Dub!
So just so you guys know, if you have anything you want to say, put it in a super chat. We will literally stop the stream and address it. And we will also have a ticker going at the bottom of the show to give shout outs to everyone who gives us super chats during the course of the show. So if you want your name up there, just send us a super chat. Doesn't matter if it's $1 or $10 or whatever, you will get your name on the ticker. All right, guys, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. But first, we're going to start off the show with Picard Season 1, Episode 3 discussion. And this episode was called 17 Seconds. It was kind of funny because before I watched the episode, I saw these YouTube reviews saying like 17 seconds Picard Season 3 review. And I was like, oh, they're doing reviews 17 seconds long now? But no, that's the name of the episode.
That's great.
Yeah. So we're 3 episodes in, and in the previous 2 seasons of Picard, the first 2 episodes were basically honeypots in order to suck you in. And then the show starts going downhill really quick, starting with episode 3 and going to the end. And I got to admit, I was not a big fan of this episode. Out of all the episodes we've seen of season 3 so far, this one was probably my least favorite. That's not saying there's nothing in it that's good. That's just saying that there are some things in it that really detracted from my enjoyment of the episode. And I'm going to cover them just really quick. So far, I believe this was the weakest of the 3 episodes we've gotten. I think a lot of people are focusing on the big reveal of the bad guys as being the Dominion for this season. And although
spoilers. Jeez.
Although that was cool, well, we are going to be discussing this thing in detail as normal. Even though that was cool, and because I'm a big Deep
DS9?
Space Nine fan, yes, DS9 fan, it was cool to see that. And I think a lot of people were so focused on that big reveal that they overlooked a lot of the less good aspects of this episode. So I'm going to try to cover my nitpicks really quickly and then move on to hear you guys talk about how wrong I am.
You're nitpicking?
Yeah.
I'm going to go downstairs and make breakfast, and I'll come back in like an hour.
Yeah, we'll see you guys back in an hour.
Okay, so
Yeah. Well, I'll just take up the whole screen. Everyone's here for me anyway.
yeah.
I think the first thing that really took me out of this episode was the flashback with Riker and Jean-Luc with some of the worst de-aging effects I think I've seen on like a major television show. There are literally filters on TikTok. There's this teenage filter that makes you look like a teenager that work better than whatever it was they used to try to de-age those 2 actors in that scene.
Sorry,
Also,
I've heard that argument before, but you know
also-
those filters are tiny resolution, right?
Yeah, whatever. Let me finish my
Not
thought.
okay, all right.
So basically, we flash back to Los Angeles, and we're at the 10 Forward bar, and I guess they just had to reuse the set because of budgetary reasons. But I actually feel like a 20-year flashback for this thing worked not as good as if they had just set it on the Titan and had Picard be worried about confronting Beverly and have Riker tell him this story at that point. I feel like this was just an excuse to kind of get a Marita Sirtis cameo in there. But also the voice, Patrick Stewart's voice. There's now AI that Terry Matalas could have uploaded his voice to and gotten it to sound like it did in Nemesis, because he sounds so old in that de-aged 20 years prior scene. So like this scene just kind of took me out of the episode like really quickly. And even though like we jumped back into the action, like, you know, immediately afterwards, at that point, my suspension of disbelief was kind of like broken, and it took me a while to get back into the show. So I feel like just from a strictly filmmaking point of view, that was like the wrong thing to put in there at that point. Another thing that really kind of bugged me was at the very end, where basically throughout the course of the show, Riker becomes captain of the Titan again because Shaw basically gets injured, and he transfers command over to Riker because Riker is still a commissioned Starfleet officer, I guess, whereas Picard's retired, even though he's an admiral. And basically, Riker makes this maneuver that gets the Titan like super messed up, and he blames Picard for it at the end of he's like, you just got us all killed, even though it was Riker's call to listen to Jean-Luc's advice. And throughout the entire episode, there's like this kind of like tug of war between Riker and Picard, in the sense that Riker's in charge and his instinct is to run and hide, and Picard's instinct is to basically use subterfuge and fight and try to take out the threat as opposed to running away from it. And, you know, there are pros and cons to both sides, but Picard's just so obviously right. And, you know, I kept thinking back to that two-parter where he becomes Locutus and Riker is forced to take over the Enterprise. Was that The Best of Both Worlds? I believe it was called, parts 1 and 2.
Yeah, Best of Both Worlds, yeah.
Yeah, and so Riker, you know, in that episode, like we see him take command of the Enterprise, and it's so totally different from like how he's commanding the Titan in this episode, that the dichotomy between those two command styles of Riker seemed a little bit off to me. And the fact that he would blame Jean-Luc for quote unquote getting them killed when it was his decision, like he made the call, and as a captain, like he has to own that. Like he listened to Picard, but like it was ultimately his call to do what he did. I felt like that was like another instance of unnecessarily dressing Picard down. You know, like the sheer fucking hubris moment of this season. And that being said, the worst part of this episode, the thing that really killed me, was every single time Raffi was on screen. Every single time they cut to Raffi, it was so cringe. This actress, you know, I've seen her in other stuff. Like I used to watch her in this show called The Glades. I never thought she was very good. And with this stuff, like her interrogation of the guy who, you know, is later revealed to be a shape changer, that was just so cringeworthy, especially considering the fact that Worf was there and he already knew that this guy was a shifter. And that, like, you know, Odo had kind of reached out to him and told him that like this stuff was going on, and he kept Raffi in the dark, and he just like lets her like go off this wrong tangent for like a good 5-10 minutes. And I felt like it was a scene from Princess Bride where like Fezzik is like, I just want you to feel like you are doing well, you know, like there was literally no reason for us to have this much Raffi cringe in this episode. It was really, really bad. I'd have much rather seen Worf doing his thing as opposed to like Raffi and they're kind of like slowing things down and making it cringy. And like, she's just, every time she's on screen, I feel like the show grinds to a halt, and I'm just waiting for it to get back to the real action, which was, you know, the stuff that's happening on the Titan and the kind of game of 4D chess with the Shrike. So, I mean, those things, like, those are the three big things that I had a real problem with this episode. Now, I will say that one of the best scenes I think I've ever seen in any Star Trek ever was also in this episode. And that was Jean-Luc Picard and Beverly Crusher talking to one another about their history, their past, having that confrontation. Oh my God, that scene was so good. It made me forgive pretty much everything else I had a problem with in this episode. I was like, man, where was this in the first two seasons of Picard? Like this was such an emotionally charged wonderful scene that I just absolutely loved. And I feel like when Picard goes and sees Jack, and Jack's down there in sick bay, and that whole 17 seconds thing kind of like actually pays off. I felt like that was a very powerful moment. And I liked seeing how Jack basically put together, like, you know, how they were being tracked. So like it was good to see him kind of like take like a more active role in the show, and you know, I can kind of see them setting the stage for like him being the successor to Picard because of that. However, there was another nitpick I had, which is basically he goes to the bridge to tell them, hey, I have an idea of how we're being tracked. And this random security guard's there, and he's like, we're at red alert, I can't let you in. And Jack doesn't even bother to say like, hey, I have information that's vital to the survival of this ship, I need to tell the captain. You know, like he's just like, okay, I guess I'll go fuck off now. And then he goes, and then there's a security guard in front of Seven's quarters, and that security guard's just like, oh yeah, go ahead, ring the bell and knock on the door. And then like when he's about to enter the room, the security guard's like, whoa, slow your roll there, son. And Seven has to be like, no, it's cool. And so it felt very contrived at that point. And also, I think that the reveal of the Dominion spies was a little bit undercut, because basically when Jack has that confrontation with the Dominion saboteur on the Titan, as soon as his face morphed, I was like, whoa, that's a Dominion guy. And then later on, when Worf reveals that dude that they captured is Dominion also, and the Dominion's the ones behind this thing, it felt like I had already had that revelation, so it didn't hit as hard as it could have if I didn't know already that the saboteur on the Titan was a member of the Dominion offshoot. So there were a lot of little things in this episode that I didn't care for, but there was also a lot of stuff that I thought was like really, really good. They kind of balance each other out, but at the same time, like there was so much stuff I didn't like that it lowered the quality of this episode compared to the first two episodes for me. So now I want to go and get everyone else's take on this. Brian, I know you're probably chomping at the bit, so we're going to start with you on this one.
Yeah, ready? Okay. Yeah, so I agree with a couple things you said, but I also disagree with a lot of it. Let's just go in reverse. Referring to the regulation of Jack not being able to be on the bridge when it's a red alert. Like, that is a known Star Trek regulation. It would have been a nitpick of mine had he been able to casually stroll onto the bridge. So just to be clear there.
It wasn't about him strolling on the bridge, though. It was about him telling the security guard, hey, I have information vital to the survival of the ship.
Except for he knows there's a possible saboteur on board. He wants to tell someone he trusts, not some random security guard. So that's why he goes to 7 and 9 and not someone else.
But then why didn't 7 of 9 just go to the bridge?
I don't know.
And also, why didn't
confine the quarters?
Also, why didn't Riker unconfine her from quarters the minute he got command?
He actually
he was a little busy. He was a little busy.
It seems kind of odd that they would keep her sidelined. Considering how loyal that she is.
Oh my God, you're driving me crazy, dude.
Bro, now listen. First off, they were in the middle of a battle when he got command. Yeah. The captain got hurt, and then he even explained it when things calmed down. And he was like, I'm not going to reinstate you. You can do more work on the sidelines right now than you can if you were in the forefront. All that was explained very clearly. I honestly would have had a complaint had he been able to stroll onto the bridge during.
I feel like we need to complain about how somebody who was in the brig 5 minutes ago is now in sickbay attending to people. You know, it's that kind of a level of a nitpick. I'm not with you on your nitpicks here, man. It's you're getting a little extreme. Okay,
we're off nitpick range.
They needed to have Jack and 7 go on a little side adventure to figure out what was going on with the ship. That's why 7 isn't on the bridge. That's why Riker didn't immediately, snap his fingers and she magically became the first officer again.
It was a little side quest, you know.
That's
a side quest. So
that's called a plot contrivance.
But it wasn't a plot contrivance. It worked just fine.
It was.
No, I disagree.
In a video game, it's a side quest.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, in the show, it's called a subplot.
Whatever.
I mean,
let's let Brian finish his thoughts.
So yeah, it is a subplot. I I don't think it's a contrivance because this is a part of the story, and you can't have the other main character. That's why it's an ensemble cast. You can't have the other main characters who are busy fighting off Vadic, also dealing with these changelings.
Also, Brian, real quick. So
Sure.
the entire time I'm watching this show, Beverly's in sick bay and she's trying to help out that dick of a doctor. And they've got so many injured coming in. I kept thinking, like, where's the emergency medical hologram? Shouldn't he be running around there helping out?
Yeah, we aren't actually. I thought the same thing, but looking it up, apparently EMHs are not used on every ship, and I don't really understand that. It hasn't never been explained properly, but the use of EMHs and now the EEHs, like the emergency engineers or whatever, are really sporadic, and they never really explained
But the La Sarita has like a full holographic crew that mans it, and
Right.
the Titan doesn't have like one emergency medical hologram.
Yeah, I don't have an
casualties.
answer for that. I don't, it's a weird Star Trek thing I can't figure out. I really can't. As far as them being busy, like, yeah, they're busy because they're under attack. That's pretty much a standard of any Star Trek show. It's pretty. I guess that's normal. The Raffi Worf stuff, I actually like this. I do not believe that Worf knew he was a changeling right away, because the changelings that he knew were not as advanced as the changeling they are dealing with. The changelings he knew had a certain, when they were in their humanoid form, they had a look to them, right? The Odo look.
Mhm.
These
Right.
changelings are much better at disguising themselves. What, OMD, you got something to say?
Well, because I'm just thinking, because my only knowledge of Star Trek is DS9, and no, Odo couldn't get a proper human form because he was an isolated changeling. All the other ones could absolutely get perfect human
Yeah.
I
form.
mean, that's not.
I mean, they perfected the Klingon and the Cardassian form and all this
Yeah.
other stuff.
Right,
There
but
were
And Worf is in DS9, so he would have had that.
Right. But a lot of the humanoid changelings we see in DS9 have that weird look to them. Maybe they can, for a while, mimic another person or race, but when they're in their regular humanoid form, they have that, I don't know how to explain it, the rubber look.
I think we need to go back and just verify that from DS9. But I think Odin's right. I think they did have the ability to infiltrate.
Yeah,
but
the leader takes on that waxy form to look similar to Odo, but all of them, like any other time we see them, like if they're in disguise, they have the full on like.
Yeah,
perfect
but
human form.
I was under the impression they couldn't maintain that for very long.
I think Odin or
they can't
Odin,
hold they cannot hold a tangible form for like they have to go into their liquid form every so many hours, but it's a lot of hours that they can hold the form.
No, okay, I don't know how many
Yeah.
hours it is, but Worf not knowing that's a changeling. I mean, I don't think that's a huge. Like, I think you're wrong there. Like, why would he know he's a changeling? Well, why would he assume that it's a changeling? The Dominion
He
War is
literally
over.
said, "I know that this guy was a changeling."
No,
Like,
no,
in that scene.
No, he did not. What? No, he did not.
Like, he didn't know at first, but the minute that he started seeing the withdrawal symptoms, he's like, "Oh, that's not withdrawal. That's him trying to hold his form." Like, he immediately knew.
Yes,
while
he put the
Raffi was
pieces together,
interrogating
but
him. Yeah,
we
exactly.
watched him putting the pieces together. So your complaint
But-
is like really
No, but
nitpicky. at
but
best.
he knew as Raffi was interrogating the guy.
yeah, when they were looking for the guy, he didn't know he was a
Right.
changeling. But
Yeah.
once he
Right.
saw him starting
so
to
like the-
dissolve, then he
the-
figured it out.
Yes, when he started, yeah, but when she was
Yeah.
torturing him, he wasn't dissolving. It looked like he was
No.
going through withdrawals.
No,
Right.
but you saw Riker or Worf there, and he immediately knew that, like, oh wait, this is what Odo
Yeah.
warned me about.
Yeah, after he started deconstructing, it wasn't until then that Worf knew that the dude was a changeling.
Yeah, we're stepping on one of the coolest lines too. When he has that reveal, when he says like, "How long have you been away from the Great Link?" That was super rad.
Right.
So to make it seem like he knew the majority of the time, completely cucks that line. I don't believe he knew the entire time. In fact, I actually love the
I think you're
interaction.
wrong.
Like Raffi playing the bad cop and him playing the sort of good cop. Don't worry, we're not going to cut your fingernails off or whatever. That was hilariously fun.
She's a terrible bad cop because she's not intimidating at all.
It's okay, Brian. I think Kadish is wrong. So
We'll see. I haven't seen the episode, so I can't get his back fully. But yeah, as soon as he would have seen any type of deterioration, he would have recognized that immediately because of all of his knowledge from the DS9.
You're totally right, but that didn't happen until toward the end of the scene. And the second it happened is when he realized and he said, "How long have you been away from the Great Lake?" That was a super cool line. So yeah, well, as far as like, there was some slow moments. I did really like Kadish. I also liked the part where they were in the sick bay. I did also, and this is a complaint of mine, felt like it lasted a long time. Like that was a very long conversation. In fact, at one point they went, the Riker and Crusher, Jack, and we thought they were done with that scene and went right back to that scene. So they spent a lot of time in that sick bay, which I guess
I really liked the Riker and Jack conversation as well. Just like Riker was almost acting like a dad at that point, and it was good to see that exchange. Vader, what's your take on this episode?
I think you're a nutcase with all your little nitpicks, but honestly though, most of them are not wrong. I'm not gonna like jump on your case too much. I just, however, kind of choose to ignore this stuff because I am really enjoying this show, and it's the first time. It makes me really happy to be able to say that about a Next Generation series, and that's what this is. This is a Star Trek: The Next Generation season 8. That's what we're getting here, and it's just 30 years later, and it's pretty darn good so far. It's nice to be able to completely forget that seasons 1 and season 2 exist because those are trash.
Although they kept referring to the fact that Picard's a robot.
They said it one time.
They said it twice.
Okay, twice, whatever. But it's barely noticeable, and I think it's going to get addressed at some point during this thing. And you know what? Who cares? I don't care. If people are going to like just nitpick that to where it's like, well, he's a synth. It's like it doesn't matter. I just don't care about it. It's not taking away from my enjoyment of this show at all whatsoever. A couple highlights for me were, like you said, that scene between Beverly and Picard, where they confront each other. He confronts her about, it's like, why didn't you tell me about this kid? That's probably one of the most intensely and well acted out scenes in the history of all of Star Trek. Probably top 5. It's in there somewhere. Don't ask me to pick out the other 4 because I need to go back and do some history lessons again. But it just really stands out to me. There was some emotion there. There was some, there was some acting going on there. There was some Royal Shakespeare Company coming out of Patrick Stewart there, and Gates McFadden. That's the most I've seen her act, I think, ever. I always kind of thought Beverly Crusher was kind of a wooden character back, and they might be my least favorite of the crew. But they both brought it. They brought the emotion, and they ran the gamut in that scene. I was very impressed both times that I've seen this episode now so far. Love the action scenes. Captain Shaw. This dude's growing on me for some reason. At least he might be a jerk and a dick, but at least he's comfortable with it, right? That scene where he gets blown up, and man, he immediately gggets pissed. It's like, listen, man, you got us into this. Now you're gonna get us out of this while I go get my spleen replaced. It was crazy.
Oh, and how bad is the doctor on the Titan?
Oh, and that was my next thing. The doctor, the Titan doctor. She sucks. What is she? Is she a Trill? Are those Trill spots?
She's a Trill, yeah.
Yeah.
I made a mistake of calling her a Betazoid, and
no. She's a Trill.
Blew up and ruined it. I meant Trill.
How dare you? How dare you? But she's worthless. I don't know if she's just getting put down just to show how awesome Beverly and Jack are. But I feel like she's the doctor of the Titan. She should know that he has internal bleeding, and then they make up some nonsense thing about, the scan doesn't always pick up internal. It's like, yes, they do.
Yeah,
You know,
they
it did
have to.
200 years ago. It would have told you with his little waving his wand over his back.
Yeah.
Oh,
Freaking
just get
Bones
outta
would have
here.
caught that up.
Just give him a
Shane
pill.
made the funniest remark. He's like, in one of our reviews, he was like, "This is now our the worst doctor in any
Worst
Star
doctor in
Trek show."
Starfleet. Yeah.
And that includes and we just got through watching Girardi.
Real quick before we
I'm not done. Let me finish. The last thing I want to say is Worf. Worf was awesome.
Oh,
just awesome in this. You know, Michael Dorn. Just there's something about him when he puts on those ridges on his forehead that he just transforms into this awesome dude. And he doesn't even have to have a lot of lines. He just has to spout them. I am Worf, son of Moog, blah blah blah, da da da, son of Roshinko, house slayer of Galron. And you're
you like some chamomile tea?
Yeah. He's like, he added some titles, and I was like, yes, that is awesome. You know, and it's just
so awesome.
Worf, easily my favorite character of all of Next Gen and of DS. And DS9 didn't get good until Worf joined the show. And he's making the show for me.
Yeah.
I can do without the Raffi stuff, but at least she has Worf to play off of a little bit. So this third episode with her was, of the three so far, is the least annoying for her as far as I'm concerned. I just don't like her character. I do not. It's just not a fun character for me. But you know, and that's it. That's all I got to say. Those are the four things that like stood out to me. I'm enjoying this show. I'm glad it's out there. Just give me more. Give me more.
Real quick before we get to culture and Odin's take on this, we got some super chats to get to.
Yes,
the first
do.
is from Mexican Iron Man for $9.99. I love everyone on this panel except the guy in the bottom right with long hair. Does not support Latino diversity and inclusion. Just saying, LOL. Was that a inside joke for you, culture?
Oh yeah, no, that's the normal jab at me because I'm not a big fan of the blue people.
What's blue people?
Avatar.
Yeah, or anything coming out of Disney right now.
Avatar sucks.
Yeah.
All right, Whiskey Jack for £2. Okay, Brian, you're right. Season 3 is bringing it.
I kept telling you guys 4 months now.
And then we got a super sticker for $1.49 from Gavin Blackburn, our resident super sticker expert. Thank you, Gavin. Appreciate that. And Joker Voice for $5. Don't care about Star Trek, LOL. However, Creed knocked out Antifa Man in Mando Season 3, Episode 1 is lackluster. Hail chat and panel. # keep talking. And then we got Fluffy Panda for $5. In the Battlestar Galactica remake, they had Apollo mad at Adama. It was actually earned. All this drama with Picard and Riker, Jack and Beverly felt forced, but I still enjoyed it.
I don't agree. I did not feel forced. It felt like somebody who was upset because he has a son out there for 20 years that was held away from him.
How that's like the definition of not being forced.
Yeah, it's like that scene made perfect sense to me. And you know, and even though the reasons that Beverly gives for not telling him seems a little bit contrived, I kind of understand it. I do. I think if they were going to like have to go that route any way, it was the one way that made sense. It's like, I think the thing that like really kind of got Picard at the end though was when she said that Jack chose not to come find you after I told him who you were. You know, that was the thing that really pissed Picard off.
Yeah, his acting there was great. The way he came out, he was like all like to the point. He's like, we have a problem. And he just pushes past it. He was clearly upset that Jack knew about him and didn't even attempt to find him.
I do think, disregarding that comment, I do think the Picard and Riker drama is forced. I don't get that. It does seem a little bit of a stretch that Riker is kicking Picard off the bridge. Well, and I also feel it was a little bit strange that Picard was pushing this really aggressive attack them first stance. When you know they were trying, I think they were trying to do some kind of thing where they were swapping their roles. It doesn't work for me. You know,
the thing is though, man, remember All Good Things.
Yeah.
That's how he was in All Good Things. Like All Good Things, we saw an older version of a Captain Riker, an older version of Captain Riker, and he acted the same exact way toward an ailing old Picard.
So anyway, the Picard Riker stuff I agree is does feel forced. The Picard and Crusher stuff I don't feel that it's forced. I thought they're spot on with that. But anyway,
I also want to point out that they did justify Jack's British accent by saying that Beverly sent him to London for school when he was young, and he just never got rid of the accent. So at least they addressed that.
Yeah, at least they gave us a reason for us instead of I was like, oh, he's just born that way, But
yeah, imagine
his dad's British.
You've been born with your British accent.
We got 2 more super chats real quick. So Scotty Dub for $50. Gentlemen and salty nerds. Yes, that includes Odin Culture and Brian from the Popcast. I wish you a superb Saturday and thank you for all you do. As with Rings of Power, you watch Picard and talk about it, so I don't have to. Yes, that is our job. And we thank you for being such a generous donator, Scotty. Really appreciate it. But I'm now going to have to redo the top graphic because Astro Nerd Boy has fucking brought it once again.
Oh my God.
$110 super chat from the Astro Nerd Boy. If I had some sound effects, I'd be playing the Master Nerd Boy. This is very generous of you. Thank you so much. The Riker Picard stuff didn't bother me because their roles were reversed. Worf made Raffi tolerable, but how did Worf capture a changeling that could have easily lost them? Beverly Picard argument equals great. Star Trek Wrath of Khan Nebula stuff was great. My favorite episode so far. Well, you're not alone in that. A lot of people on the interwebs has been greatly praising this episode as the best so far. I did not think that was the case for me personally. Culture, I know that you are refusing to watch this show. Can you tell us why?
I was just so deeply offended by the first season of the show that I was out immediately. Despite all the positive that I'm hearing about this current season, I don't know how you would re-engage me in this in viewership. It's I mean, you guys were even debating some of the nitpicky things here, and I already found some things I would be like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, which would include how do you hide a person in a utopian circumstance that TNG existed in? How are you hiding this sun? I mean, especially the son of a starship officer, an admiral, as a matter of fact.
They go outside of Federation space.
Yeah, outside Federation space.
Okay,
you gotta watch the show, Culture. You gotta watch the show, man.
Okay, well,
they explain all that, bro.
I can tell you right now, I have zero interest in watching the show. But again, like I said, I was so disrespectful in the first 2 seasons specifically, and I was subjected to the first season once. I did that to myself. I was starting to see it a second time. That is definitely Andre's fault for Midnight's Edge. But the 2 episodes I looked at from season 2 were so grievously offensive that I was just finished. So
I thoroughly agree with you.
Yeah, getting me back to watching something Star Trek is going to take an entire season of nothing but praise. And I won't take ad hominem shots at something I haven't seen. So I'll leave that to others who,
Well, I predict that by the end of this season, then you'll be watching the season.
We'll see.
Okay. Real quick before we get going, we got 2 more super chats. We got one from Chris Retzlaff for $5. Ed Spielers is killing it. Do you think he can lead a show moving forward if they decide to? I do think the actor who plays Jack is excellent. I've seen him in multiple shows in the past, and I think that he could carry a show as a leading man, definitely.
He got me to watch The Highlander, bro. The Highlander. Ugh.
All right, and then we got this super chat from Son of John for $10. I agree with Riker and Shaw that the Titan is outmatched by the Shrike, and retreat is the best plan of action. Picard should have assessed that and suggested a retreat as well. That is an issue. I don't know. I kind of feel like Picard was right on that, because basically, like, if they have an opportunity to take out the bigger threat, they should take advantage of it. Otherwise, what's the point? So before I throw this to Odin, I want to welcome two new members to the panel. For the first time ever, we have the other half of the podcast, Shane.
Hey, brother.
To defend his boyfriend, Terry Metalis, from my nitpicks. And of course,
on a date. You're right.
And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Tom Connors Jr. from Midnight's Edge.
I didn't hate it, but I don't give enough of crap about it to really defend it. So
we just turned into a salty midnight Popcast. Salty midnight. Yeah.
Nice. It's
That's
a
crazy.
trifecta. It's almost like we're having a threesome. Hello,
All
everyone.
right, Odin, what's
The
your
lemon
take
party's in the house.
on Picard here?
Well, I still haven't watched the show because my only knowledge of I mentioned this I think last time, my only knowledge is DS9, so that's why as soon as you started talking about DS9 stuff, I was like, I get that reference. Oh, I can actually contribute to that conversation because that's actually something I know. But based on what I'm hearing, hey, if they bring in more stuff from DS9 like the Dominion and stuff, hey, maybe one day I'll watch it. Maybe
they're setting up a return of Cisco or something.
Oh, then that would be cool.
That would be pretty.
Yeah, I kind of doubt it because Roger Avery is literally off the deep end.
The funny thing is, you guys think this has a future, but yeah.
Real quick, we got another super chat from Astro Nerd Boy for $5. I understand you culture, and I was going to ignore it, but R&B, Brian Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, and Dave Collin, etc., convinced me to come back for season 3. But
right, baby.
Guys, one more.
Guys, there's one more super chat that we gotta call out, and I'm gonna have to redo the fucking graphic again. Scotty Dub for a $111 super chat. I will not be defeated, Astro Nerd Boy. Also, gents, please don't think I'm trying to disparage Picard explicitly. I just more so enjoy hearing your discussions and commentary, likely more than I would the actual show. Loving the new studio, by the way.
Oh man,
Scotty, you are crazy, man. But thank you so much.
You're paying for the new studio. I hope you like it.
Yes,
no,
yes,
we're going to sushi this week.
That is
That's
so
very
generous of you.
very generous.
And Bob Dorsey and the Astro Nerd Boy have a lot to step up for because the new super chat goal to beat for highest donator is $111.
Yes.
That is crazy.
Jeez.
Thank you so much, Scotty. Shane,
Yes.
hard to follow that, but how do you defend episode 3?
I got to tell you, I am absolutely loving these super chats. You guys keep it coming. 200. Who's on 200? We can do one of those auctioneer style things. Come on, 120, 130, 140.
You guys so thirsty.
I had a thought when I was out this morning, and I don't typically get a chance to come on here because there's just so much going on a Saturday, but I wanted to share something with you guys. I think I could explain why there's a little bit of on the fenceness happening. So Star Trek Picard Season 3, I think, speaks best to people who have a really true deep love for TOS and TNG specifically, I would say. And so if you have like if you watch the reruns over and over again, and you've every year or two, you just rewatch everything all over again, and you just love these characters, watching Picard Season 3 is going to make you feel something you haven't felt in a long time. If you're like, I dig Star Trek and it's cool, I love it's good sci-fi, then maybe it won't speak to you on a deep level, so to speak. So I think ask yourself that. If you love DS9 and Voyager and TOS and TNG, you start watching this, you'll start to realize there's these things that you haven't felt in a long time. And so I just kind of wanted to put that out to you guys and say, maybe that's why some people are like, and some people are like, oh my God, I love this. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm definitely enjoying the season far more than the previous seasons, but there are just like little things that I feel like you guys hyped it up so much before it premiered that I'm holding it to a higher standard.
Yeah, we
so
probably failed on that.
When I see that standard falter, I'm like, this was supposed to be like the perfect season of Star Trek.
Don't shield shame me, okay?
Tom, what's your take on this?
I haven't hated the season so far, but I haven't liked it enough to really go out and, defend it like with any kind of fervor or anything like that. Yes, there's elements to it that I can see why casual Trek fans and even maybe some classic Trek fans and diehards will like it. But I also understand why a lot of people are completely turned off by it still. And look, it's Kurtzman Trek. I get it. Nothing has really changed in that respect, but this is the best we've gotten of the garbage. So, I mean, it's like you're at a restaurant and you've had nothing but crap for your entire meal. The dessert is good. That's really what it boils down to here, because that's kind of what this is. Because there's no real future for this. Maybe there's a slight chance we might get a spin-off series with his son, but I doubt it. Because if the ratings for this show were any good, we'd be hearing about it. And
the ratings
nobody's
are
talking
good,
about it.
Well, actually, just to pitch in, not to go against what you're saying, because after 3 episodes, I mean, you're right. There is an element. And I want to talk to you after episode 5. So we need to come back after episode 5 and have a discussion because I want to hear everybody's take after that. It's very, very important.
Also, the ratings. So, like, we're going to talk about this in a later segment, but how success on streaming is gauged is a little bit different from network. So, like, a lot of it has to do with audience retention, new subscribers, like stuff like that, and also watch hours. It's kind of like a weird YouTube type algorithm type thing. Yeah. But Odin, was there anything else you wanted to chip in? Because I know, like, we had to cut you short for some of the super chat love.
I haven't watched it, so I again can't really add much more to it than what I've already said.
I love that honest response, by the way, Odin. Love it.
So Brian and Shane, you guys have been balls deep into Picard season 3 for quite some time now. You talk to your boyfriend pretty regularly. You watch the whole season at his house. Can you tell us what we're in store for in the next episode? Because we don't get any previews
over a candlelight dinner.
Plus. Yes, and sweet jazz music. Yeah,
and 9-year-old bottle of Chateau Picard wine.
What you can look forward to for upcoming episodes, well, you got a nice little taste here with the changelings from episode 3, right? Mm-hmm. So we know that there's Dominion War, DS9 tieback stuff occurring, and I think the setup is about over. So I think going into next episode, the setup will be done, and it'll be completely, moving forward for the rest of the season. So expect answers to all of your questions, and for the things that are bugging you right now, like why is Riker talking to Picard the way he is? Why is there this weird animosity on the bridge during what's happening? All that kind of gets sorted out as we go forward as well. So cool. It just starts to feel better. It's kind of weird. It's like when we first started watching it and we had the benefit, and we understand, we had the benefit of being able to do it boom, 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 10 episodes in a row. So when you get to watch it like that, you have a different feeling because you're taking your kind of good feeling directly into the next episode instead of having to wait a week.
Yeah, you guys, the difference between you guys was you got to binge the whole thing, whereas we're having to do the week-to-week thing.
It makes it hard, I mean, it's cool to like wait for the next week, but there is a feeling of you're already kind of amped up going into the next episode, and then you're amped up more. So there's like this ramping up that occurs during the whole season, where it comes to like a culmination in the final 2 episodes, where you've been on this. The one thing that Terry did a really good job doing was creating a build up. Not having this thing where you hit like the first 2 seasons of Picard where you hit this weird, you hit the ceiling like around episodes 5 or 6 or something. It was just weird. This builds all the way to the end, and it's a satisfying conclusion, which I think most people who are fans of Legacy Trek are going to love. And so
if they watch it.
So before we get to,
I'm just going to start giving it a bad review because I feel like we're one of the only ones who haven't got a preview copy of this damn thing yet.
Have you asked?
Nice Edge got snubbed.
I feel like I got snubbed.
If you asked for it, I'll give you the email. You could probably get it.
Nobody offered. I don't ask for illegal
no
things.
one offered us. We asked. We had to ask, bro. Ask and you shall receive, bro. Knock on the door shall be open.
You think CBS is going to give us anything?
Dude, I didn't think they would give it to us, and we asked, and we got it.
Yeah, we're not very nice either.
No, you just have to email them.
Although you guys are meaner. You're right. You are meaner.
You are meaner than we are. That's for sure.
The CBS is going to go, oh, you get that guy from Norway? No.
They gave it to Critical Drinker, bro. If they gave it to Critical Drinker, they'll give it to you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So because we've got Shane and Tom on the line here, I want to stick with the Star Trek news just until we get to Mando. But the other big news that came out of Star Trek world today is that Star Trek Discovery, after 5 seasons, has finally been put out of our misery. It's been canceled. And I'm really glad that Tom and Shane are on the call here, because there's a little something that I want to talk about. So first of all, this is on StarTrek.com. It's a note from Alex Kurtzman and Michelle Paradise that talks about the decision to end Discovery after season 5. And there's a little something that I like to, I don't like to toot my own horn all that often, but occasionally I say something that was correct. And Matt Vader and Tom were on a live stream when I made this call in 2019, and I want to show a quick clip of me being right 4 years ago.
Just
We're going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery now.
Yeah, I was kind of holding out for that one. So yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Star Trek Discovery in the context that there have been a lot of rumblings on the interwebs lately about how Star Trek Discovery is a failure. They don't understand how it keeps getting renewed. It's costing CBS All Access tons of money. It's not making a profit for them. And I feel like a lot of these rumors concerning Star Trek Discovery come from a general ignorance of how different a streaming service operates than a regular broadcast TV network. And recently there was like some rumblings about a Google Trends graph that shows a declining interest in Star Trek Discovery versus, the movies versus, the original TV shows and stuff along those natures. And I always find it interesting getting kind of wonky and in the weeds about how some of this stuff operates. Star Trek Discovery's budget was paid for by Netflix, not CBS. And this was a gambit that Les Moonves took back when he was in charge of CBS Studios. And what he did was basically he knew that Netflix was very big on getting a original new Star Trek show on their network, but he didn't want to give them the US rights because he knew that CBS All Access was not international. He decided to put out the international rights in a bidding war, and Netflix eventually won that bidding war. And it reportedly, according to this article, paid more than 100% of the cost of Star Trek Discovery in order to obtain the rights to distribute the series internationally, which is the bulk of Netflix's market. So basically, the show made a profit for CBS before it even aired on CBS All Access in the United States. And we've heard this a lot. In fact, Midnight's Edge commented on it in a number of their stories where the Netflix deal paid for the first season of Star Trek Discovery, which was the most expensive season because they had to build all the sets, they had to get all the costumes created. And Les Moonves knew that future seasons of the series would cost less because all the costs were front-loaded on season one. But here's the interesting part here. This is an article from Red Def, reddef.com. And if we go down to where it kind of breaks down some of these original series that Netflix does, and to co-license originals, they have a very interesting paragraph here where it says, to co-license a show, Netflix would commit to giving to a given percentage of its total production budget, a figure which would vary based on the number of market rights bought and competition for said rights. Accordingly, Netflix can end up paying a substantial portion of the production budget for only a single market, e.g. 60% for just the US rights, and sometimes more than 100% for all rights outside of the developing network's home market, thereby making the show essentially free for that network. For example, Netflix is believed to cover more than 100% of the cost of CBS All Access's Star Trek Discovery for the exclusive rights to the series in most non-US markets. To this end, Netflix is believed to have virtually no control over Star Trek Discovery's creative or budgetary decisions, though there would be predefined maximums, and may be forced to buy it for as many as 5 seasons, regardless of whether the show performs well on their service or not. So guys, the reason Star Trek Discovery continues to get renewed is because Netflix is on the hook for 5 seasons of the show. And so we're going to get at least 5 seasons of Discovery going forward. It's Netflix, it's CBS All Access's biggest draw. It's its biggest growth property. The more Star Trek they put out, the more they're going to get into this. They don't even need Netflix to finance Picard because they're already in the black. This is the reason why Star Trek Discovery is a powerhouse for CBS All Access. This is why it's not going to get canceled anytime soon. This is why Alex Kurtzman is not in danger of being fired. So this is my case for why Star Trek Discovery is a hit. You guys remember that?
Yeah, why does Vader somehow look older in that video?
Yeah,
right now?
how does that work out?
Matt, you're so much more salty now than you were back
Is
then.
there a Benjamin Button thing going on? I don't get it.
I wish I had your thing where you could push a button and you just freeze and you disappear and you go take a shower, shave, because that's what I wanted to do right then. It's like I had my daughter go down and get me a new fresh cup of coffee, and I had to like put up with her little snit. It's like, why didn't you do it yourself? And I should have just done it myself, and it would have taken less time to do than to go through all of that. mic drop moment from Kadish. I don't know what he said. It's like, other than I'm right and you guys were wrong. it's like woohoo. It's like, all right.
Well, when I saw the news yesterday that Discovery was ending after 5 seasons, I was like, I've been saying this since 2019.
Yes,
that they're going to
that's
have
I
5
think
seasons.
that's what they signed up for, right? Like that was the initial idea that Netflix paid for the whole damn thing, 5 years. They tried to get out of it. They did get out of it in third season, after the end of the third season, and then, but they didn't need to stop it. I mean, it was still going. So
So Shane and Brian, I know you guys in particular have had bad things to say about Discovery. What are your thoughts on it finally ending?
Well, we're trying not to be those guys. You know, we don't want to like kick it in the mouth as it's going down. You know what I mean? But it's good. I mean, look, it wouldn't have bothered us if it stayed in the future and just kept going and it had its own little audience of people. We were fine with that. As long as it was away from canon.
Yeah, it's
and
away
in the
from what
future.
we're doing, right?
Right. So we were fine with it. But we also
Our view
saw
is
the
very
writing.
libertarian when it comes to Discovery. Just like, yeah, do whatever you want to do over there.
Just get the hell out of our timeline. That was the whole point.
Right.
You know,
I'm personally I'm really upset that it's going away because I don't know how the world of Star Trek is ever going to insert more inclusivity and stuff like that into their Star Trek show,
You
because
should be upset because how many views you get just complaining about it?
this show was the very first show in the world to ever have a alphabet person character in it, guys. It was the first one ever. And I don't know how we're going to move forward without Discovery and its goddamn nonsense. It's just, God, I hate this show. I am so glad that this show is going off the air. It is atrocious. You know, for everything I say that I like about Star Trek Picard season 3, I am the polar opposite when it comes to Discovery.
Yeah.
It is a trash fire. I hate the people that make that show. Kurtzman is just it. I can't even. I'm just. I won't be able to sleep for the rest of the day if I keep going. It's just,
you know,
it's
Vader,
bonkers.
people got confused. So you realize that there was a moment when Star Trek TOS did this really incredible thing in the 60s, and it had a diverse cast, and it had like, you know, the races were all together on TV.
Discovery
right?
was the first one.
But what I'm saying is
one.
that somewhere along the way, somebody got the idea that that is what Star Trek is all about. That Star Trek is all about the diversity across all, you know, whatever they call them, infinite diversity.
IDIC, yeah.
Right. That's not what Star Trek is about. Now, that's what some people decided Star Trek was about. But if you go and watch TOS, then TNG and Voyager and DS9, there's elements of progressiveness in it, but that's not what it was about. Okay. When Brian Fuller took over and got Discovery and talked CBS into letting him take over Star Trek and create it, he had a vision for what he wanted Star Trek to be. Rick Berman, Gene Roddenberry, their vision is what we got for Legacy Trek. Fuller was a great writer on Voyager. He wrote some really great episodes, but he was extraordinarily liberal. He wanted gay characters. He's gay, so he wanted a vision of himself in the future. That's not nothing wrong with that. That's what people want. But the problem was, so when he went out to make Discovery, he had like a whole idea of what he wanted. He wanted Sonequa Martin Green from the beginning. He pushed. He wanted to repeat the first African-American female in space, and he was going to have that no matter what. So he set this whole show up to be like this, and the reason we got it was because of that, because it became a progressive pull. The reality is Star Trek's for everybody. There should not be a left side or a right side. It's a combination of both. It's a progressive of humanity.
Star Trek Discovery
along the way. That's what happened.
Star Trek Discovery is, I think, the first show ever to literally piss me off to the point where I refuse to watch it. I'm the guy who watches every episode of something that has the word Trek or Star Wars on it, simply because, for no other reason, I need context to be able to talk about these shows. When they went to that episode to where they had that nonsense lecture with the pronouns and they inserted all that modern bullshit into our show,
I remember that.
I said, I'm done. I'm out. Screw you, Discovery. I don't need your modern nonsense inserted into our Star Trek shows. And it did. It offended me. I was pissed off. I said, okay, you don't get my views. You don't get my 1 click a week anymore. And I know it wasn't a big deal, but I couldn't deal with it. It's like if I want that stuff, I'll go to Twitch, Twitch, or I'll go to Twitter or something. And when it was an absolute bonfire back then, and no, man, I don't care that this thing's going off the air, and I'm not going to watch season 5 because I don't want to. But give me more Terry Trek. I need one of those hats that you're wearing right there because I will support the shit out of that.
Nexttease.com, baby.
Because Terry Metalis knows Trek. He knows what the fans want. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me there, but at least he's being respectful to what came before. Discovery took what came before, took what it was, wiped it on a piece of toilet paper and wiped his ass with it. That's what Discovery is. And don't need it. I'm glad it's going off the air, and I don't care if I ever see any of those people in any other shows anyway. Sonequa Martin Green should have stayed in The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
She had a pretty good
I didn't like her
there.
either.
All right. But before we get to the rest of the panel, got a few super chats I want to get to real quick. JT Gunn, Late Night with Cap for $2. Maybe Scotty can cover me for the other $108. well, Scotty's a very generous guy. You never know. Fluffy Panda for $5. When it comes to Brian's opinion, he's the Wesley Crusher of the group. Just want him to shut up, LOL. Kissy face, and the changelings can only hold for 16 hours, FYI.
I do not understand why Fluffy Panda just hates me so much. It's
every
week, man.
It was because of the DS9 stuff. That's why.
Yeah, this one's for you.
Look,
this one's
Rock,
for you,
it's
Brian.
just some people just don't like some guys, Just
Okay, all right, I get it. It's because you don't like non-binary Latinx characters.
That's right. That's right.
We're gonna need a hashtag fuck you, Brian.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
And then finally, Whiskey Jack for £2. Matt doesn't drop the mic; he deconstructs it. This is true. So Odin Culture and Tom, you guys are very much on the business end of the entertainment side of things. What's your take on basically Paramount canceling Discovery after 5 seasons?
I've never watched it. Just like most of New Trek and most of Trek in general, I again defer to my exclusive knowledge of DS9. And what I will say, though, is based on everything I've heard about it, though, and just the promos alone, good riddance. I think that most people probably feel that way at this point.
What about you, Tom? Any Midnight's Edge insight?
Well, funny thing about this whole thing is when I heard about this news, it was Thursday when it dropped. I was actually on Mr. H's stream, and I was mentioning how nothing has been greenlit going forward. Nothing for Star Trek. They have just finished up a few things, but nothing outside of that has in development, in production, nothing. And then all of a sudden this news drops that Discovery Season 5 will be the end, which we all knew. Like, Matt pointed out since the beginning, they've been saying they got 5 seasons no matter what. And we're finally like, oh, thank God, finally it's over. But I'm like looking at it from a different perspective of, look, I think this whole thing is over. Finally, we've reached the end of this mess. So I'm glad you guys are liking Picard, but that's where I say don't get so used to it because I don't think there's any future there. There may be, but the ratings are going to have to push for that. But at this point, I think Clarice really did Kurtzman in, and they don't want anything to do with him anymore after that. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes here. But I'm hearing that with the 60th anniversary, there's going to be some kind of big celebration with kind of a quasi reboot of sorts. They're supposed to be, they're supposed to be doing something in the comics to kind of make everything that happened in Kurtzman Trek kind of its own pocket universe. So we'll see what they come up with going forward.
Tom, did you just say comics?
I did.
Oh, no, that's
Can
not
we add
right.
something to Tom's comment there? Because I think he made a really good point, because he talked about it needs to be, it's going to have good ratings. There's also something else that's happening that started really pushing out right now. I shared it with you, Matt. It's actually a petition that's starting to get a lot of push. Trek movie. We talked to Trek movie this morning about it. Some of the actors are starting to put it out, and I don't know if you guys can share it. If you guys do love if you like what you're watching and you want more, Tom's right. Like, it's going to need to get good ratings. So you're going to have to watch it on Paramount Plus if you want more of it. But there is a petition that's going around that we're trying to get as many people to sign it as possible so we can get it in front of studio executives to just remind them. That's how Strange New Worlds happened, by the way. There was a petition put out, then fans started harassing Kurtzman at Comic-Con. That's how it ended up happening. So we can get more of this if you like it and love it. We just have to be vocal about it. So Tom's right. And if you guys, I don't know if you can share the petition, Matt, but it would be helpful if people do like it, if they want to sign it.
We'll put it in the description and post it on the
Thanks.
pinned comment. Culture, before we move on, what's your take on Discovery finally getting the axe?
Well, again, as Tom's pointed out a few times, and as I actually said, and obviously you have already said it there, Kadish, it was only going to go 5 seasons, so that's not a big deal. But there's a bigger problem here, and this is from the business side, just analyzing it from stepping away from it. None of these streaming services are capable of maintaining any kind of profitability or even achieving it because of their mindset as far as being walled gardens. And Wall Street's actually in a position to, yield a lot of authority when it comes to these corps. Paramount specifically is in a very bad place financially, and they need things that succeed. You can only support things for ever so long financially with no benefit. And right now, there's not a lot of benefit in these streaming services. So this is really a function of reality. They when they had a deal with Netflix, it was a little bit more, feasible. You cannot maintain stuff beyond their expiration date beyond that scope because there's no financial reward in it. And as you pointed out, I mean, their metrics for success haven't exactly yielded substantial gains in subscribers, viewership, et cetera, because they have a very strange algorithm for how they calculate success. Well, you're starting to see substantial pullback from that mentality because they are getting pressure from investors, and the institutions can only hold them aloft for so long. We're starting to see that, the cracks in a lot of different studio environments. So those are my thoughts there, if you want to step back and take a look at it from that perspective.
And also shows that this is a complete failure too, because the fact that they said they guaranteed it basically for 5 seasons, and now all of a sudden they would be back on, based on what I heard, now they would have to actually start paying for it. And so it's like, okay, so over 5 seasons with like free money, basically, they weren't able to get anywhere close to the audience that you would need to continue that. So that tells you all you need to know about any claim of it being a successful show, right? Because it's
funny thing is, Odin, is actually they've been paying for it since season 3, like I said.
Yeah,
because Netflix got out of the deal.
Yeah, they noped out.
They got out, and that was where they made this big thing, like, we're bringing Star Trek back home. Because what it was is they got Discovery back because they had to pay for it. But notice they didn't go get Strange New Worlds. They didn't go get Picard. They just got Discovery, and that's it.
You know what's wild is Discovery is one of the most expensive sci-fi shows ever made. It's like, I think it's like $8 to $10 million an episode for
it was, yes.
That is incredible. That's literally 8 times more than what it cost to make Picard season 3. 8 times more.
They had a lot less to spend on season 3 and 4. And that was the thing or season 4 and 5. They shot 4 and 5 back to back mostly. Then they went back and reshot back in November. And now they're going back again here this month to shoot again for the rest of the season. So I'm assuming now they're just going to give it a final send-off, which they were talking about a movie for a little bit. They didn't know what they were going to do. So now we have the answer. But yeah, like I said, the more glaring thing to me is that there's nothing beyond this. We have no Section 31 show greenlit yet.
We are always fun.
There's no other seasons of Strange New Worlds in the pipeline. Obviously, we know this is the end of Picard. There's no order for Prodigy, no order for Lower Decks. In fact, Kurtzman's Man Who Fell to Earth show also just got canceled as well. So
yeah, I saw that coming from a mile away, though.
That looked terrible.
They were talking it was going to get a second season, then all of a sudden it didn't. That was the weird thing. And I think
I don't think anyone watched the first season.
Yeah, no, I think Clarice is the main actor.
He noped out of it though. He didn't want the second season.
I weep for Rick and Morty's Upper Decker. I really do. I thought that show would make it.
Real quick, we got a super chat from Fluffy Panda for $5. STD is an insult to everything Gene created Trek for, and that got it 5 seasons is disturbing considering its top worst sci-fi series. I don't think well, because I went to the Star Trek convention, I did meet some people who like Discovery, but I think they like it because they're just brand loyalist. Like everyone I've talked to who's actually given Discovery a fair shake just hates it. Like I stopped watching after I found out that a Kelpian tantrum destroyed the entire universe.
Oh my god!
Like that plot point was worse than anything they did with Spock's sister and like all this other like weird shit.
I can't get past that. And in the words of Dave Cullen, Dave Cullen was like, "Nacelles not connected to the ship." Mic drop. Like that's it. That's enough right there. But there's so much.
And we also got another super chat from Denny Wright for $4.99. Prospect of a kids next generation Star Trek show, Raffi and Wesley Crusher pre-banned. I kind of doubt it. They already had like the two kids Star Trek shows, Prodigy and I guess Lower Decks, but not really.
I think what he means is, are we going to get a show with this next gen, like Picard Jr., Sidney
Wesley.
LaForge? No, Wesley.
Wesley.
What about what's her name?
Probably,
the girl with the blood disease that got kidnapped by Wesley.
Yeah, I don't know. Seven as a captain or something, and and we get this new crew, this new bridge crew that they have on the Titan right now. I can totally see Metalis at the end of the season having
Star Trek the next generation.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Call it something like that. But he's not going to like
legacy.
I would love to see a Star Trek Titan with Shaw as the main captain. I love Shaw.
Sure,
I can't get enough.
That would be okay.
So Terry does want to do another show. I mean, like he's 100% down for doing it. It's like the problem is he's not right now. So like you're right. Whoever asked that question, yes, that would be great to do that. Not necessarily for kids, but to continue on the story in the 25th century. But the only way it can happen, and I don't want to be a broken record here,
I don't think any of us would want to see a new show based in this timeline without some kind of genetic DNA linking it back to our characters. Having Sidney LaForge or somebody like that in there to make the gap, that bridge, would be perfect. You know, so bring it.
And she's really great. She's really great.
Yeah.
I was gonna say yes and no because that's kind of what got us here in the first place. Discovery is kind of predicated on us knowing who Spock is and all these other characters, and that's the thing.
But they just dropped the ball.
Is the beauty with Star Trek is that Voyager and some of the other shows like Enterprise showed is you don't necessarily need a direct attachment to one of the other shows. Even TNG initially didn't have any direct attachments to the original show outside of the ship.
Except for the very first scene was, I think, Data and McCoy walking through the hallways of the Enterprise. So of course they
I think that was at the end of the first episode.
The Enterprise. The Enterprise is a character on the show.
But at the same time, though, after that, it's like it's not predicated on he's the nephew of Kirk, or some stupid shit like that. Like that's what I'm getting at. So, Trek is wide open. I would rather just see something that's completely unrelated in the future, beyond what we've gotten so far. I mean, again, I'm with Shane. Like, if you want to hope for Star Trek the next generation, then a lot of people got to start watching Picard, right? Because that's the problem. 100%. Is the first season at their height, they had around the same kind of ratings that Enterprise did, which is not good, right? And that was the best one of these shows has done so far, was around 4.5 million viewers roughly, and they go by minutes and shit. That's the problem, like Matt was saying. So we don't ever get an actual viewer count, but that was kind of the rough guesstimate because we were figuring it's like this ain't doing any better than Enterprise did when it was canceled.
Yeah.
So that's the problem they have here, and this is going forward they got to face the facts, and this kind of maybe will segue into the Chris Pine thing, is that Star Trek isn't this billion-dollar franchise. They can't be spending multiple billions or millions of dollars on a season of a show. You can't spend $100 million on a movie. Chris Pine's right, and Emma Watts has said it before too. You're never gonna get the Marvel money. This is never gonna be Star Wars. Star Trek's a niche brand that has never gone beyond what it has in the past. Emma said that these movies, even though they look like they're making more, with inflation, they're not, but they're costing 4 times as much, right? And with that, Star Trek Into Darkness and Beyond both lost money. Even though Star Trek Into Darkness made more money at the box office than Star Trek 09, it costs that much more to make, right?
We were talking about
and the shows are the same way. Like they're not making them the way they used to. The way they used to do it is they used to amortize this shit across the board. Like Matt will tell you, they used to reuse every set, every suit, every prop over and over and over again. They just redress it, relight it. You know, they'd even reuse effect shots 9 times out of 10 if they could get away with it.
True,
Flip it,
that's
whatever
true.
they'd have to do.
Yeah. The flip and shake, dude. That's a classic.
All right, guys, I think we've talked about Star Trek enough. Let's start talking about the other great franchise that we love to hate, Star Wars. And the Mandalorian Season 3 premiere, episode whatever, called The Apostate. And this episode...
Prostate.
The prostate, yeah. I got to say, I have mixed feelings about this season because it was nice to get to return to Star Wars, but at the same time, there was so much dumb shit in this episode that it made it hard to enjoy. But enough about my thoughts on it. I want to hear about the panels. Matt Bader 74, what was your take on Season 3 premiere of Mando?
I would have rather have watched a resurgence of Miss Piggy and Pigs in Space, because I feel like that's what we got. This is Muppet Show level nonsense. It was just, it was bad, guys. It was bad. I don't understand what's even going on. You know, the last we saw of the Mandalorians, they were down to like 2 people. You know, fast forward, I guess, what? I don't know how far we are in the future now, because according to the boys, Grogu spent 2 years hanging out with Luke on Jedi planet. When, you know, in reality, everybody knows it was 2 months at the most. Culture, you got a look on your face.
Well, no, I didn't realize they'd screwed up the timeline so badly.
Yeah,
again.
the timeline's all wonky. You know, they did this thing where it's like Grogu spent 2 years with Luke. It's like, what? No, he didn't.
No.
How?
Culture's thinking
You know,
that's not how the Force works.
but you know, there's just so much weirdness in this thing. You know, it's like all I saw was Disney making a half-assed season 1 premiere and inserting as many marketing possibilities for Funko Pops and action figures as they possibly could. That's what I see. That's what I see. I see terrible dialogue. I see nonsensical characters. I see story plots that have already been touched on, and they're just rehashing from those few episodes of The Mandalorian that we got in Boba Fett. They're literally just repeating this stuff in different settings. It makes no sense to me. And then they cap it off with yet another space chase through an asteroid belt, and they cap it off with a bunch of HR Puff and Stuff rejects and Captain Keltbeard. It was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Oh, and the dumb conversation between him and Starbuck that they didn't need. They could have had that over a radio. You know, it was completely nonsensical. Made no sense to me. So,
They totally Jake Skywalkered her, didn't they?
yeah, it was awful. You know, I'm just to the point with Star Wars.
They even used pirate lingo in the episode.
Avast, Yar,
Vast Maydays.
Barf, get out of here. They need to like really bring it in the second episode, or I don't know what I'm going. I'll still watch simply because I have to talk about it on here. But man, I think I'm done. Star Wars has killed me. It's brutal. So
Grogu hugging those miniature engineered little figures over and over again and being like uncontrollably being able to hug them.
And those guys are from Rise of Skywalker.
Well, that means a lot right there. So.
Yeah, Babu Frick was one of those guys.
yeah. Like I said,
Brian,
Muppets. They're Muppets.
Brian, I wanted to ask you that there was a scene in this episode where Grogu's staring out into hyperspace, and we see these like shadows
Space
of,
whales.
of space whales in hyperspace. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Where did
Space
that come
whales.
from?
Well, you have to watch Rebels.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's-
you have to
There
watch.
be whales.
You got to watch a cartoon to know what that's about. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they just stole that from Star Trek or Farscape or something else. Yeah, that's dumb. The fact that anyone has to watch a cartoon to understand what's happening on a live action adult TV show is just beyond stupid to me.
Don't get me started on homework, man.
Look,
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about if you guys like the cartoons and all that. That's great. Like I enjoy them, but I'm not watching them. I'm not planning on watching them
No,
anytime soon.
Brian, this is how it should work. Extra comic books, cartoons, excess stuff, expanded universe stuff should just be that expanded.
Mhm.
It
Right.
should not. I should not have to read a comic book
Right.
or watch a cartoon to understand a freaking movie. I
Yep.
shouldn't have to do homework to watch a television show. And this
Yeah,
is
then you
what's
get the-
wrong with Marvel right now.
But you get the hyper nerds that defend it though, right? The White Knight hyper super sweaties. They're like when you're like, hey, what the F is up with these whales or whatever? They're like, oh, did you not see episode 3 of this show that took like? No, of course I didn't. Of course,
it's a part of the canon. You should have watched it.
It's a book by Tim Ruth, and he talks all about the clones. And I don't what.
Ryan spent a couple of minutes explaining it yesterday on FNT. That was wasted time.
I look at this thing and I think of the Mandalorian. I go back to season 1. You know, it was really good. I thought it was really good for what it was in season 1. I still think that scene in the first season where he has the fight with the Jawas on the sandcrawler, that's awesome. But you compare that show to this thing that they're doing now with the giant crocodigator that comes out of the water.
Oh, God.
It was,
Why are they even there? Why do they live
Don't
there?
get me started on
doing?
that either.
it was
That's
just
such a bad.
insane.
It doesn't make logical sense. It's almost I have the same problem. Now, hold up. I do have the same problem with some people that live in Florida. Or I'm like, why do you live there? I get it, but dude, that doesn't make a whole lot. This whole show, is it being directed by the same person?
It's written by Favreau. That's the fucked up part.
It's
Written by
written by
Favreau.
Favreau.
It's
Rick
like he gave up.
Famuyiwa, who did several
Yeah.
episodes in the previous seasons.
He has
Great
to be farming
director.
this
I don't
out,
know what
right?
the hell is happening here. Yeah.
He's got to be farming it out because this doesn't make no sense.
No, this is a pure result of them losing their footing after the whole Gina Carano thing and everything like that. That's clearly what it is. And
sense.
at this point, like, we got nothing out of this episode. All we've learned now is that he's a babysitter to a 50-year-old who can't wipe his own ass, and he's got to take a bath.
Well, so basically the setup for season 3 is like his new quest is to go to Mandalore and bathe in these waters to get back into his clan. So real quick before we continue talking about this, I want to get to super chat from Son of John for $2. Star Trek is best when it's on low budget bottle seasons. I tend to agree with that. I don't know about the rest of you.
Thank you.
But with the Mandalorian, so Shane, we had pirates in this episode that were straight out of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, God.
Like literally Pirates of the Caribbean. They were trying to get into a school so they could drink,
Which was
for some
stupid
reason.
scene, too.
Stupid.
Yeah.
and then there was a kind of statue dedicated to IG-11 for basically killing some stormtroopers and saving Baby Yoda because that was like a big deal, I guess. But he blew up, and they were able to find enough of him to cobble together a statue that they then needed to reactivate because Mando doesn't trust droids except for this one
Dumb.
droid, even though that droid just tried to kill him.
And then as soon as they activate it, it tries to kill him again.
Yeah.
But yet he still insisted on using this droid. I'm just like, why?
So
John, come on.
also the Mandalorians seem really bad at fighting stuff. So what is the point of this show at this point, Shane? Can you shed some sunshine?
We haven't even got to
on
the
this
last
story?
scene, which makes absolutely no fucking
Oh, we'll
sense,
get there.
too.
John
Right.
Favreau, I love you. What the hell are you doing, man?
What are
I
you
mean,
doing,
like,
bro? I don't
he's
get
taking
it.
ownership of this crap. I mean, I was so confused, Matt. I was so confused. First, what was the point of even showing the pirates? So when Mando leaves the planet, right, and they're like, "Oh, we got you, ha ha ha," right, and then he just like hit the hyperdrive button and took off. And it was like, oh, okay, well, I guess they didn't have him. It made no sense. You had like
Guess not.
Jabba the Hutt green, whatever they did. Like it was like Jabba the Hutt is a green pirate, basically. And it just made no sense. I don't
Oh,
understand.
because
why.
Shane, you didn't read the book, okay, by Timothy Zahn, where the Hutts.
I'm
Well, it doesn't
telling
matter.
you,
It was
Sean-
stupid. Why
Shane,
haven't-
the reason we have all these new pirates is so they can make toys.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough.
That's
yeah.
the only reason.
Well, my point is like, okay, so what was the whole point of the pirates? So society
cool.
was completely changed because
So
of
he
what
has a villain
ID-11
this
did.
season.
I guess apparently down there. You now have Apollo Creed, who's in charge of everything based on that one little fight that we had in season 1, I guess. And so now, Mando's being dumb. He's my friend. I want to help him. I want him to be with me. I don't want another droid. It just got all weird. It just doesn't feel like seasons 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I am super disappointed. I was really looking forward to this because Star Wars has been garbage. And I was looking forward to at least some Mandalorian being okay, but I was disappointed after.
I feel the most sorry for Shane because he's been telling me for like a year and a half. Oh, dude, Mandalorian's
Honestly,
coming back. It's gonna be great.
The pirates aren't the problem. And here's the thing: there's a setup here in the first episode to where a good place the show could go, because clearly they have no clue what they're doing and they're meandering in the mess. Because you sit there and in their explanation to where Gina is, they say she's been picked up by some secret service thing. Well, okay, he says I need special forces. That's what it is. And he says, well, I need a marshal. This is basically a setup for like a Gunsmoke type show. Now this is what you have, right? Why are you ignoring this? Basically, what the show should be here from here on out. Get rid of the damn baby. First of all, you got a problem with the damn baby. Nobody's buying the baby anyway because you see they're now destroying the toys because nobody's buying them. And this is a problem anyway. I've been saying from the start, and I agree with Script Doctor who's pointed out that there's no logical sense as to why this baby can't talk yet, or at least manage to understand the world. It's been around for 50 years.
No, there is logical sense because then it won't be worth as much as a toy.
I get what you're saying, Brian, but yes, but like they even had an opportunity to have some fun with this, and this is what pisses me off, is they could have went and said, like, just wait, and then somewhere in the midst of the second season, all of a sudden you hear the baby start talking. He's like, thank God we got out of that mess, and then Mando turns around and he's like, what the fuck was that? Because it would totally be a Yoda moment. He'd be like, yeah, I can talk. Of course I know what the hell's going on. I'm 50 years old. It's like,
I think the mess we got out of.
Yeah, it's like I just needed to know if I could trust you or not, kind of thing.
That'd be awesome.
Danny DeVito doing the voice or something like that. Everybody would have loved it.
Boston Danny DeVito, like almost Danny
basically
DeVito
Baby Herman, right?
Stealing it from
I wanted to ask Odin. So Odin, at the end of this episode, we get Bo-Katan back, and she's just sitting alone on her throne in her massive castle with all of her soldiers of fortune having left because she doesn't have the Darksaber. And when Din Djarin shows up, he's like, hey, you want to go to Mandalore? And she's like, no. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll just go there by myself. And she's like, by the way, do you still have the Darksaber? And he's like, yep. And then he just leaves.
Yep. Yeah, that whole thing was so stupid.
Why did they have to Jake Skywalker Bo-Katan?
Well, that's what the question I had too, because that's another direction they could have gone in, right? Because last time we saw her, it was, hey, we're going to take it back. And that wasn't really a big problem. Like, that would have been known to have been a problem in the first place, I feel. And because that's, again, something that's established in, I believe it's, I forget if it's Clone Wars or Rebels. It's one of the two, but it's established in the cartoons.
Episode 3.
I know, right? So I think that's a missed opportunity because they could have at least maybe shown that. That would have been an interesting way to like have like a side quest. Actually showing them trying to take it back, and then you have this like insurrection that basically takes place. Hey, they could have even tied it back into modern day politics, right? Insurrection, right? They love talking about that. So they could have at least would have been interesting because you would have been like, oh, there's something going on, and oh, okay, rather than it's just Mandalorian and Baby Yoda's going around being like, oh, I need this thing. Oh, you don't have it? Okay, I guess I'll go over here. But yeah. I do think that we're hating on it a bit too much. I mean, there's two kudos I got to give. All right. First off, they at least they didn't kill Cara Dune. They could have killed Cara Dune, and that could have been bad. But hey, they didn't kill her. So hey, that's a positive. But the best thing of all, we're talking about it referencing obscure things. Okay, there is an original trilogy reference in this show, in this episode, that I think everyone is missing, and that was the fact that they had the Salacious Crumb species in the trees. Yep. And they were totally CGI. And kudos to them for doing the really bad CGI of this. But I
have a question real quick.
I didn't hate, or rather, I did hate the end of season 2. A lot of people were really high on it because they're like, Luke, and I'm like, no. It was, oh my gosh, the CGI is terrible. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, this is awful. This looks terrible. And so any of the buildup of the moment, I was like, it's taken away by the fact that I'm looking at a PS2 level graphic.
Well, I mean, we've been talking about the bad graphics coming out of Disney for a while,
Yeah.
but I'll say this. I mean, and again, I
Y'all
didn't
just call them graphics.
Yeah, I didn't see the episode because I'm done with Disney Star Wars. But I'll say this: Bo Katan was supposed to have a spinoff series called The Night Owls. We're supposed to actually get that going back a ways now, and that didn't come out at all. It didn't come to fruition.
Can I tell you something, Culture? You're gonna have to start watching something because you're a Culture Casino.
I
and
watch
at this
all
point,
kinds.
you're
I watch good things, Brian.
all right.
Good things.
Can I ask?
Yeah, but think
can I
about
ask
that.
you a question, Odin.
Yeah, what you got?
Why are we still not using Star Wars music in The Mandalorian?
Because we have an amazing score by an
You don't like
amazing composer.
I just don't get it, guys. Why can't we use Star Wars music in a Star Wars TV show?
They can't afford John Williams.
But you have to pay
They
for it
repurpose them
again?
all the time for other things. So yeah,
real quick. We got a super chat from the Astro Nerd Boy for $5. If the Yoda species live 10 times as long as humans, then Grogu should be about 5, not some toddler. That would make the wolf and cub aspect more interesting.
At least, right? Like, and let's be real. They even say Yoda was already training Jedi by the time he was 100 years old, right? So at that point, like, even if you do it by that math, okay, you figure he's 10. No. It's just not how the species works. It's just you're trying to pretend that it works that way because you're not thinking about it logically. Tortoises live for a long time too, but do you think they're that stupid? No, or they wouldn't fucking survive. That's why.
Right, they wouldn't be around that long, right?
Exactly.
So I know how to fix that. At the end of this season, right? All of a sudden, at the end of this season, Din Djarin's going to look back in his ship, and he's going to see that Grogu is somehow gotten into a cocoon in the back part of his ship. And then at the beginning of season 4, we're going to do a 2-year time jump, and then Grogu's going to come out and he's going to be 15 years old and he's going to be like baby Groot, but he's going to be teenager Groot.
He's
right?
gonna be playing like
he's like, yo man, what's up? Let's go do some sports stuff.
Well, that's what I use it as example though, right? Was James Gunn was smart enough to know I can only get away with baby Groot for this long,
right?
And that's it.
I can't
he
wait
knew
till
by the end of that movie it was done for you.
In the next episode, in episode 2, we're going to get Grogu hugging yet some other furry creature to make a new Funko Pop set, and probably going to use the Force to levitate a piece of chocolate off of somebody's table.
Already M&Ms. Yeah.
But it was M&Ms. We're going to do chocolate next week. So,
I wanted to ask Culture. So I know you didn't watch this episode, but so we've had rumors that a season 2 of Book of Boba Fett is in the works. We know that Ahsoka is next up for like the TV show, and then we've got this new one called The Acolyte, which is coming out, which is the girl power dark side Sith stuff,
which is supposedly still filming right now. And
yeah, so like we've got a lot of Star Wars in the pipeline, but none of it looks very good. So what's Disney thinking here?
Oh,
aren't we supposed to be getting some other mega announcement too coming up here for another movie that'll never come to fruition?
What are they thinking? They're thinking that investors are going to continue to buy it. I don't know what they're thinking. Why are you asking me that? They're dumb. They've been destroying properties left and right lately. If I were an investor right now, I think I'd be on the phone to that Nelson Peltz guy saying, "Hey, could you finish taking out this Iger dude and like restructure the company again, please? Because this is bad news." Yeah, we've been hearing Cameron Pasha say that it's vaporware for a while. The problem is, it's supposedly shooting and has been for the last 2 weeks now in the UK. So take that with grains of whatever you've got out there, salt, whatnot. But I don't know. I mean, answering that question, Matt, I wish I could. They're thinking they have like 2 major viable boys properties that they've turned into girls properties, and that boys are still going to go see them. And I'm using quotes here because nobody's going to go see this stuff. You've wrecked the whole reason you got these things. You've destroyed. I mean,
I've never seen a company in my life. I don't think any of us have that purposely destroys their own property. Even their old stuff, like the Peter Pan thing coming out, but all of their old classic cartoons, they've literally taken and made them for modern audiences and destroyed them. It's just I don't understand it. It's just like they hate money. It's incredible.
They hate money.
Absolutely incredible.
Well, speaking of Disney,
they're making money. We're just losing. Their investors are losing it.
Okay, speaking of Disney, there's one last thing I want to get to before we get out of here. So basically, Disney released some stuff from the new Peter Pan remake coming out called Peter Pan and Wendy, and basically they're punishing people for talking negatively about these sneak previews that they put out there, and this just looks
atrocious.
Awful. Yeah, like see if I can find it here. So
you're actually gonna try and talk about Peter Pan sexual and Wendy Sue, and you're not gonna get knocked down.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So careful, buddy.
So Tinkerbell is obviously a powerful woman of color, and so is Wendy, I believe. Guys, so this article on Red State, Critical Drinker made a very funny video about this, and so did Heel versus Babyface and Disney is kind of targeting them because of it. What's the panel's take on this? I want to hear just in general. What do you guys think? Is Disney like really going to?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Because we've been there ourselves. Yeah. I know. I'll give you an example. We were doing our Captain Marvel review live because Andre saw it before it dropped here in America, because it actually dropped early in Norway. Everything was fine and dandy. It was just as we are talking right now. No pictures on the screen, no music, no nothing. We were fine and dandy for about 20 some minutes. All of a sudden, Andre starts getting a little critical of the film. Boom! Stream goes down.
Oh my God.
Strike everything, whole thing. We're trying to figure it out. It's some firm in Astoria. So Andre and I do a little research. We find out they do have connections to Disney. We got it all sorted out, but at the end of the day, it's pretty obvious what the fuck happened.
How did you get a strike though? If you're just talking, what are they claiming?
They went after us, but they took it all away and they apologized. They were like, "Oh, it was a misunderstanding, whatever bullshit." But in the meantime, your stream was destroyed because completely destroyed, taken down. We wouldn't have been able to stream live if we wanted to, and all that business. Like, yeah, it was we were like, "What the fuck?"
I hate that so much when they go, "Oh, sorry, we made a mistake." But in the meantime, they understand that us plebs over here, our stream and the work we put into that video, or whatever is completely ruined. And they all they have to do is apologize, and they could get zero, they don't get any criticism for him because, oh, my bad, it was a mistake.
Yep, no consequences for them.
So I absolutely believe that Disney is directly going after them because, yes, they do not want you talking about this shit.
Odin, what do you think of the strategy, the Ghostbusters 2016 strategy of literally attacking the fan base for not liking your stupid decisions?
I mean, we'll see how it works out for them. It's ultimately exactly. It's going to be interesting to see these numbers because you've already seen it, of course, with The Little Mermaid, right? The attacks the excuses have already been made, saying it's a bunch of ists and it's a bunch of phobes that are going after it. And for this one, to be honest, like I remember when the casting first came out and they had made the announcement, or there was recognition that they did the race swap for Tinkerbell. I was like, usually those in and of themselves don't usually like mean too much to me. Like it's like as long as they got a great actress to play the role, right? There's nothing that's specific to, I guess, the general idea of fairies to have that be something that would make that much of a difference in the end. But then it's the other stuff that they're starting to do, right? When it's no longer the Lost Boys, right? They're actually changing key aspects of the lore and key aspects of the story. Like when those things start to change. Yeah, exactly. That's when it definitely starts to get to me. So all they're doing is they've already have a bunch of people who are turned off because their live action stuff has been crap and been like that from the very beginning. Like I have students who I'll mention the remakes of these things and even they will say, yeah, oh yeah, those were terrible. Why, like these are just awful. And the 90s ones are so much better. So I think that all they're doing by this is maybe they're getting a few woke points, but we all know woke points don't actually make you money. You can make a Twitter mob happy, but that's not the real world. and they're not going to spend money on your movie. So basically all they're doing is probably taking anyone who's on the in-between and pushing some of those people away, because they're like, wait, Disney's going after people for having an opinion? Okay, no thank you. So you're basically limiting the amount of money you could possibly make, which is not likely that much in the first place on these types of films.
Well,
So
especially
I
since
wanted
it's a streaming property, but yeah.
I wanted to ask Brian and Shane. So, like, Disney has done very well with their live action remake strategy up to this point. And now we've got Peter Pan and Wendy, and we've also got the upcoming Little Mermaid, where they have gone way off in a very different direction with how they're presenting this material. It's not just a live action translation. It's actually they're changing the source material for quote unquote modern audiences. And if these things do fail, and they probably will, they can just kind of shrug off the failure onto like racist white people or something like that.
Yep.
So what is the point of Disney's, like, why are they doing this if they know that these things are going to be rejected by audiences?
Well, they got a little bit of FU money right now, but that won't last forever. That's one of the problems is, I mean, you saw it with some of the stuff that they did. Some of the Lightyear was not done well. Some of the issues that they're having where they're like, you know what, we don't care. We're going to blame our racist audiences or whatever for what's going on. And that's going to end up hitting them. Or, Bob Iger came back for a reason. This can't last too much longer. Now if people start showing up and they're paying for it, I mean, The Lion King was a good live remake, but do you guys really think this Little Mermaid thing is going to go off well? So I don't think so. So I think when these things start to fail, then they'll have to change the way they're doing it. I mean, changing the basic ingredients of a character. I mean, when you're making a movie and you're using somebody, I mean, how do they cast people? Well, you look like the person. You look like that character. You act well. That's how you get chosen. So changing these characters, for some sort of social justice, thing that's happening in our country right now, it's going to backfire in their face. It's not going to work. It's not The Little Mermaid.
Now, Brian, you are our queer representative on the panel.
That's correct.
So what's your take on this? Don't you think that that Disney is perfectly justified in
Absolutely.
Diversifying?
Yeah. Listen, this is progress and you got to deal with it. You white cis haters, deal with it. Progress is messy. Damn it. It's messy. And we have no choice because the world will not survive unless we have as many of my people in many of these pop culture roles as possible. Deal with it.
That is the official statement from our Latinx representative on the panel.
Thank you, Brian.
Matt Vader 74, you love these types of movies.
No.
What's your thought on this?
I love you said Matt Vader. You're like, no.
The only thing I plan on doing that day is maybe I'll pull up some of our local seating charts of our local theaters on the premiere day just to see how many people are actually sitting in the seats and to make some troll tweets. That's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, no, these things are all dead on arrival as far as I'm concerned. I have no interest in watching these. I'm not going to expose my grandkids or anybody to them. They're trash. I'm going to make them sit down and watch real Peter Pan. The cartoon from
Hook is a great
back
show.
in the day.
Movie.
So
Hook was phenomenal.
I don't need to watch androgynous weird Indian Pan and his island of lost people with African American
people is very bigoted. Okay, some of us
people call
animals.
me. Listen, people call me names all the time, and I don't care. I just feel how I feel. And it is what it is. These are not what these movies are supposed to be. They're changing them for what points.
Two-spirit Apache helicopter. Please stop saying the word people.
I identify as an overweight, gray bearded, fat guy. So that's what I am, and it is what it is. So it's trash. Just trash.
Great.
That's all these things are.
All right, culture. Do you think that Disney, why hasn't Disney caught on to the fact that this is not a winning financial strategy for them to make these types of changes and to target these types of audiences with their classic material?
You've now asked me this question in two different ways already. I'm going to say I have no idea why they haven't caught on. It is more important to the political animal that is Bob Iger to espouse all these extreme, neo-Marxist that's the ideology that he subscribes to, and you're continuing to see that across the entire company and it's rotten to the core at this point, because we've seen things from well inside all the sycophants that he's placed well within this, that from the Imagine Tomorrow videos and onward, the people that are happy to tell you that the ideology is more important as a platform, or these properties are more important as their own platform in support of these ideological things that don't jive with the Western world or anything else. This is, again, it's nothing more than pure neo-Marxism. And again, if they didn't have the financial support that Shane was talking about, they wouldn't be able to push this on us. They built up a huge war chest in the form of multiple long-term loans, essentially, just prior to the closing of all their theme parks, and they've been kind of sitting on that money and the continued support from the stock market, although recently they've somewhat collapsed again, but to continue to head in the wrong direction culturally. Disney is no longer a family company. I mean, let's just be honest about it. They haven't been for a long time. When the minute they started to figure out how they could introduce gambling in various forms into their various properties, which they've been actually soliciting opinions for the last 15 years, to be fair, they were headed in a very bad direction. And again, the weatherman's great at acquiring things. He's very bad at managing things. And they brought him back for a reason.
Yeah, we've got 6 live action movies out since 2019 for Disney, right? So when you take a look at it, I don't see any of these as having the social ramifications that we have coming up with The Little Mermaid and with Peter Pan, where they're doing race swapping. It'll be interesting to see how that performs based on it. You got The Lion King, who did break $500 million, but everything else.
The Lion King and Aladdin were kind of testing ground, right? Because Aladdin, they did have Will Smith playing the genie,
right?
Which fine, whatever. And they did make sure that, I guess, the rest of the cast was culturally appropriate. And then with The Lion King, everybody in the cast is black.
But we can't really tell,
No, but they made a point of that. Like, they made a big deal out of it when it came out.
Except for the bird. Bird was
but for
black.
the viewers, of course. I don't think anybody really, it's like, what's the experience going to be when The Little Mermaid comes out?
So it's not like they still weren't doing it there, but here's the problem in that is that both of those movies made $1 billion. So did Beauty and the Beast. And I hate to say Little Mermaid still has a frickin' chance of doing it too, and all it's going to do is send them the wrong message.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick,
that's
guys.
The question: if Little Mermaid doesn't do well, then there's a sign. Like we can use The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast,
because
to hold against it.
Post-COVID,
real quick, guys. For
these films are not
Whiskey,
doing as well.
From Whiskey Jack for £2. Modern audience? No, it's an alternative audience. That is the case. And we also have another super chat from photographer extraordinaire John Kakaza. Hail, salty nerd. Hail, guests in chat. Congrats on the new studio. The photos look great. Can't wait to see it in April. We're looking forward to seeing you again in April for Nerdrotics Meetup, John. Yeah. And say hi to Mobile Gamer for me.
Yeah, John. Check out John's stuff. He's been posting stuff on Twitter. He's been doing stuff on his YouTube. Check him out. He's doing some great stuff.
Yeah, he's been doing some fantastic stuff. So, guys, I want to wrap up today's discussion with one more thing, which is Star Trek 4. We began with Star Trek. We went deep into Star Trek. We're ending with Star Trek.
Star Trek 4.
Yes, Star Trek 4. So basically, Esquire had this big puff piece on Chris Pine come out recently. And Chris Pine shared some thoughts about Star Trek 4. He says, I always thought, why aren't we just appealing to this really rabid fan group and making the movie for a good price and going on our merry way instead of trying to compete with the Marvels of the world? He'd like to span more years as Kirk, but wouldn't be surprised if Beyond was the end of it. After the last one came out, it didn't do the $1 billion that everyone wanted it to do. And then Anton Yelchin, who plays Chekhov, passed away. I don't know. It just seemed, and then he pauses and looks longingly out the window that Star Trek bought. He doesn't finish the thought, but a few minutes later, he suggests that Star Trek feels like it's cursed. It shouldn't be this hard to figure out how to do another Star Trek movie, yet it's taken 6 years. Pine and the crew's return to the screen was announced in February of 2022. But when I spoke to producer J.J. Abrams by phone, The search for the director is still ongoing. Abrams is elliptical about the film, even by J.J. Abrams standards. He says, I will say it's the first time since the original reboot that we have a story that feels as compelling as the first one. But this is news to Pine, saying, I don't know anything, he says, which is apparently pretty standard. In Star Trek land, the actors are usually the last people to find out anything. I know costume designers have read scripts before the actors. It is weird. I asked to be the captain and know so little about what you're signing on to. And Pine says, I would say it's frustrating. It doesn't really foster the greatest sense of partnership, but it's how it's always been. I love the character. I love the people. I love the franchise. But to try to change the system in which things are created, I just can't do it. I don't have the energy. So guys, Star Trek 4 has been trying to get made for like years now. It's almost a running joke at this point. Tarantino came in. He was going to do it. They had 2 other directors sign on and then quit.
They're on 4 or 5 now, actually, Matt.
Yeah, they basically there's no word about like what the script's going to be about. Sometimes the J.J. Abrams cast is returning. Sometimes they're being recast. Nobody knows anything about this movie. Why is it so hard to make another Star Trek movie? Shane and Brian, you guys are deep into this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually know a lot about this one.
We made a video. I put it in the private chat.
Yeah, well, the reality is that they wanted to do a Starfleet Academy movie. So the scripts that were rolling around were different variations of Starfleet Academy-esque type of movie, but the streaming service started fighting over the fact that they wanted to do a Starfleet series. So there started to be this back and forth. The movie lost out when people wavered, and Matt Shackman went on to do Fantastic Four?
Fantastic Four or something, yeah.
And so it lost steam, and it looks like the studio is won over. Do not be surprised if, following Discovery being canceled, if it doesn't turn into a Starfleet Academy in the future TV show next. So just be aware of all that going down. But Star Trek 4 is being messed up because they're fighting over what the story is going to be. So they've had to rewrite it several times. Everybody's busy. You know, all the actors are doing different things, so getting them together is difficult. And little birdie told me that JJ and Alex don't get along really well. So,
are you talking about Alex Kurtzman?
Yeah.
I don't know about the latter. But
we made like an entire video, by the way, about it being cursed like 6 months ago, and it just wasn't very interesting back then. But Shane did a ton of research on this topic, and the thing is, it's not just that like, oh, it's the magical, it's cursed thing, but there's so many cooks in the proverbial 10 forward that there's the only way to make this happen would be if like 15 people got on the same page at the same time and didn't have competing schedules.
So I want to go to Odin Culture and Tom on the business end of things. So we know that Paramount seems to be struggling with funds, and a lot of the reasons that Star Trek 4 has been delayed has been about cost issues. What's your take on this? Is Paramount like basically insolvent at this point, and that's one of the reasons why they're not able to do anything?
I can't speak to Paramount as an overall company because I don't look at them as like all the different things that they do. Because when I think about Paramount, I think about the fact that they just made a crap ton of money with a little film called Top Gun Maverick. So they at least had something from that. Now, I don't know whether they, what kind of debt they were in prior because of other things. But when it comes to Star Trek specifically, even with the most conservative numbers, and the charting that I use, I know is probably a bit more conservative than what other people use. But out of all the Trek films that were made, only one of them actually made money, the first. The second one technically broke even, but it's like, and then the third one just lost money. So they made less every single time, right? And so as far as like as domestic market goes, it was just all around decrease. Internationally, it kind of went back and forth a little bit, but the last film made $355 million versus the first film's $472 versus the second film's $527. So the best they ever did was a little over $500 million. So there's no money to be made from this. They obviously might be saying, oh, we're getting the fans. It's like, but when you're spending as much money as you are and the film doesn't even look that great, like by the amount of money that you're spending it on, there's just no money. So at this point, I don't know if it's that I don't have money to give to the movie, but there's no justification to give this movie any money whatsoever because the last one especially was a flop.
Culture and Tom, it seems to me that J.J. Abrams is just a really bad producer, and that's a big reason why this movie has floundered so much. I mean, like, it was J.J.'s fault that Into Darkness took so long after the initial success of the original Star Trek reboot. And also, like, he just seems completely uninterested in shepherding this franchise, and his failure is splashed all over Star Wars as well. So, do you think that a lot of this has to do with the fact that J.J. Abrams just sucks at his job?
Go ahead, Culture, and then I'll take it.
Well, jumping in there real quick, I'm just going to say that Star Trek has a history of always performing at lower levels after the launch of a new movie cycle. So it'll get to a certain point, it'll go up 1 or 2 or 3 films. By the time it gets to the third film, it's hit the apex of the hill, and then it's going to go downhill from there pretty dramatically. It happened with TNG. It's going to happen with, or it happened with Kurtzman Trek. And that's just kind of been the natural pattern there. They lost so much money on the last film that there's no incentive to create something out of what they have now. It's not profitable. When you look at everything that's going on with Paramount itself, and as Odin mentioned, they're not exactly rolling in the dough. They had one really successful film in last year, which we all loved. I think I can speak for most of us. And outside of that, they've doled out a bunch of trash. They've driven the stock price into the ground since they remerged. Sherry Redstone made some really dumb decision with, because she's primarily in control of National Amusements. And ultimately they've rebranded how many times and restructured how many times. That's all in an effort to hide failure. Anytime a company restructures, they're hiding failure. That's why Disney's doing it again after Iger came back in, but we'll set Disney aside for now. I don't think there's a lot there that Kurtzman can offer to anybody. You pointed out quite adeptly that he destroyed Star Wars, and it continually earned less money as he kind of held the reins there, and specifically with the last film. I don't know, Tom, do you want to add into this? I mean,
it's basically J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams is a freaking problem, plain and simple. As I said before, and this is what I was referring to as this whole interview with Pine, is Emma Watts was somebody who was at the company a couple
real
years
quick,
back.
Tom, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Odin has to get going. So, Odin,
no.
Any final thoughts, and where can people find you before you head out?
No real final thoughts. Just, it's always great to be on here with y'all. I always look forward to it. So again, thank you for having me. And you can find me at OMB Reviews on all of the various places that you typically can go. And I will say that we're about a week away from my Oscars boycott show that I've been doing now. This is the 5th time that I'm doing it, called The Ravens. So if you want to vote in that, voting is up until this coming Friday. So check out the links in my channel description to find out more about how to get the votes in there, because we already have a record number, at least as far as who have participated in this. I've had like 250 people vote, which is huge for what I've done with this. So if you want to have your voice heard, go ahead and check that out. Thank you as always, guys.
All right, thanks, Odin. Say hi to the little one for us.
I will, especially as the light is now, shining right on my face. So
Yes.
They're saying it's war paint in the chat.
Oh, I think he's just been anointed. We are having Lent right now.
There you go.
Y'all have a good
See you,
one.
buddy.
Bye.
Take care.
All right,
Yeah,
Tom,
as I was saying,
please continue.
As I was saying, this is the actual quote I was referring to earlier when I brought up Emma Watts, is that this is not a $1 billion franchise. Culture's pretty much right. They have a plateau. You can manage to make X amount of money off these from the base fan base, and that's it. Yes, you could probably bring some other butts in the seats with a few gimmicks, but that's really all the JJ Trek has been, is one big gimmick. And he has desperately been trying for the last few years to get a 4th film off the ground, no matter what the hell it is, because by my calculations, he's got roughly 2 years to make that happen, or his company will no longer be a part of Star Trek. Notice he's no longer a part of Mission Impossible as well. So this is the thing, is it's getting to that point where he needs to desperately make something happen. We have a great little vignette of where Tarantino come into this and his take on the whole mess. And it's from his words directly, and it's hilarious. It's a little too long to be playing here, but I got it on Midnight's Edge After Dark if you want to check it out. But in so many words there, that's basically what he says too, is that JJ doesn't give a shit. He just wants a movie made. He doesn't even understand what he's done. They just want it because this is probably one of the last bastions they have, because the entirety of Hollywood is kind of starting to learn what we and what Brian and the rest of the crew have been trying to tell you guys for a long time, and I know Matt knows what I'm talking about here too, and that is that Bad Robot deals only seem to make money for Bad Robot,
Right.
and nobody else. And Hollywood's starting to realize that these guys are taking a huge chunk up front. They get a huge license deal out of the deal. JJ always wants to have massive control over every outlet of the, this is why he got pissed with Star Trek to begin with. And this is something we had done videos about back in the day too, where he demanded that they stop selling classic Trek merchandise. And they said, go fuck yourself, because that brings us about $30-40 million a year easy, if not more.
Right.
And he's like, well, it's making people misunderstand what's going on with my Star Trek, and I want my Star Trek to be the only Star Trek, because that's what he wanted. Because at that point, he gets the toy money if it comes off of his toys. He gets the game money if it comes off of his games, etc., etc., etc. So that's what this is really all about. And he really badly wanted that Tarantino Trek to happen, not for just the reasons of having Tarantino involved, but the big reason is his version was going to be cheap. He wanted to do a movie based on the episode, the gangster episode.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been very cheap for them to do, and that's exactly what they want to hear. The other problem with they have right now is that Chris Pine and the rest of the crew will not budge on their price. And good for them, because it was Paramount's dumbass fault in the first place for making these contracts for these guys. And even if they didn't have these contracts, 90% of the cast would still be able to go, fuck you, you owe me more than that. I'm worth more than that. Because the only one who really doesn't have a huge career is Zachary Quinto, and I'm not trying to downplay him at all. I'm just saying he's the only one of that crew that has not found massive success afterwards. Zoe Saldana, she's huge success.
Yeah.
Even what's his face who plays Dredd, Carl Urban is probably worth a hell of a lot more than he was then. That's what I'm saying, is all these people's stock has gone up while Star Trek stock has gone way down.
Although Pine has managed to carve out a lower salary recently.
Well, regardless, he's still working steady in big films, right? Like, you can't say he isn't. So yeah,
He's still on A-list.
Yeah. I mean, he's got that Dungeons and Dragons movie coming out. Matt Vader, was there anything you wanted to add about Star Trek 4 before we wrap up?
I just really enjoyed that Esquire article. All the pictures of Pine modeling his fancy clothes were just.
It was
perfect.
very fancy, wasn't it?
Hey, I'll give him credit that there was only like one girl's shirt in there. We were looking at it the other night.
Yeah,
it's like, of all the other Esquire and Vanity Fair things we've had in the last few years, at least he's wearing 90% male clothing.
Yeah, I got a kick out of the article because it starts out as from the author's perspective. He's like, I'm sitting up here in this little sauna hut on the edge of Chris Pine's territory as this guy's basically sitting there in a diaper doing yoga and, spreading incense around. I'm like, oh my God, Chris Pine's a Hollywood weirdo. What's going on here? But yeah, it was pretty funny. It was pretty good stuff. I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, Mr. H still has the best, and I'm using this word going forward. He has the best descriptor for him. He calls him a ponce. So I'm now using the word ponce when I talk about.
Well, didn't Harry Styles literally spit on him?
No,
like
he didn't.
that, but yeah,
they actually addressed that in the article. If you read the whole thing, it's pretty funny.
It's a terrible puff piece. And the guy went straight to Shane Cashman with it. Like he was, like he was writing, a piece on like Eliza Blue. It was terrible. Terrible.
All right. Well, Tom Connors, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
No, the final thoughts on it. I mean, really, it's like, this is a drama that we've been following for years, and obviously the guys at the podcast have now too. So clearly check out if you're interested in it, check out any of our past videos and theirs for any news on this, especially the JJ side of things. And I recommend checking out that Tarantino bit. It's only like 3 minutes, if that, but his whole story is hilarious, because he's just like, he's like, I tried to have my editor explain the timeline thing to me and he didn't get it. And I had JJ try to explain to me and he didn't get it. He's like, nobody gets it. Just do whatever the fuck you want. Like, and at that point, Tarantino's just like, yeah, I just want to use the cast, right? Like, so anyhow, but no, on the Star Trek front, we're due for another director to come in because we had originally it was it was those guys who were working on the Rings of Power. Now initially we're working on a script for it. We've had at least 3 or 4 directors attached to it. Noah Hawley, S.J. Clarkson, this Reach Shackman guy, and there was somebody or 2 or 3 I'm already forgetting from before that. It is almost every 3 to 6 months we get a new Star Trek 4 announcement, right?
That's wild.
So, and I mean, you guys would probably know better than I would doing your recent videos. So, like, at that point, I think it's dead. It's done. I can't wait to see what they got in mind for the revival of it. Otherwise, you can find me on Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark, of course.
All right. Real quick, we got another super sticker for $1.50 from E. Clay Tomlinson. Thank you so much for that super sticker. Really appreciate it. Shane, this was we're popping your cherry for the first time on Salty Saturdays.
Yeah, welcome.
Nice.
Do you have any thoughts on that? And where can people find more of you?
I feel less of a virgin now. Thank you very much.
I hope we were gentle.
You were gentle. Agreed with Tom. Definitely go check out those Midnight's Edge videos. They're fantastic. For us, we are putting out a lot of Star Trek content right now. So if you guys are interested in that, please go check it out on our main channel, the Popcast. But on Monday, we're going to be doing a live show. We have our Raw Rant show. We're going to have on that show the Critical Drinker, Sci Fanatics, and of course, one of our salty brethren will probably be there, I'm sure. And so come check that at 2 p.m. on Monday, Pacific Standard Time.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Culture Casino, any final thoughts and where can people find more of you?
Culture Casino right here. It says at Culture Casino. You can find me at all those places, Twitter, Minds, Getter, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, all Culture Casino. Easy to find. What are my final thoughts? Don't care. Unsubscribe. Maybe if they get Terry to do it, maybe somebody, maybe, in support of Terry Trek over here. But in all honesty, I think that, there are a lot of franchises I've just noped out of. And I think that a lot of people can speak to that, but do check out the great work that the Popcast guys do. And of course, Midnight's Edge does. And, we do have some people that care about these things and they make great stuff. So that's what I would suggest consuming rather than the dreck that's out there.
Agreed.
All right. And Brian from the Popcast, any final thoughts and where can people find more of you?
No final thoughts. You guys Shane said it all. You guys know where you can find me. Same Popcast place, live, Prime, etc. And of course, we'll be back on Raw Rant Mondays.
And you also got a DC YouTube channel, right?
Yes, DC Unleashed, and we're in the process of gathering a Popcast Justice League in order to pop out shows every Sunday for DC Unleashed. So stay tuned for that.
All right, Matt Vader 74. What do we got going on this week, and where can people find more of you?
Tom just boned out, so I'm out. Real quick, thank you everyone for joining us for an episode of the Salty Midnight Popcast. It's been really fun today. What do we got going on? We just dropped our latest review of Better Off Dead. That came out yesterday. Highly divisive, controversial movie review that we did yesterday. I think I'm alone on my hill that saying that movie is a pile of John Cusack crap. But go watch that video more to learn more about that. What do we got going on? I don't know. I think we got some another live stream coming up on this week, and
for all the Star Trek fans who tuned into this live stream, we are doing live commentaries of the original series for our members area over at saltynerdclub.com. So if you like the original series and you like our takes on it, go watch those. We have a lot of fun doing those. Those are going to be up in the members area because Paramount likes to copy strike everything and we hate them. And it's the only way that we can actually do something like that for our club members. So if you want to kind of weigh in on that, it's a lot of fun and you can go over there and check it out. We're also doing a regular live stream every Tuesday now, which is a lot of fun. So if you guys like the Salty Saturday energy, check out our Table Salt Tuesday live streams. Those are going to be a lot of fun. And we have the whole Salty crew on that one, which should be really good. And we just got in another super chat from Whiskey Jack for £2. I Stand with Vader. That movie sucks.
Oh man.
Actually, next Friday. So I believe that we're doing. Which movie is that?
Young E.
Young E. It's going to be the first episode that we've recorded in our brand new studio. And Shane is actually going to be coming out this week to check out the studio. And you guys might even be doing a live broadcast from the studio this Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm excited. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. You guys killed it.
Yeah, so we got a lot of stuff going on. But guys, this stream, so
Awesome.
number one, we hit 82 concurrent viewers at some point, which is the biggest that we've ever gotten for us. But also, probably the most super chats we've ever gotten on a live stream. It's absolutely crazy. I want to shout out everyone who gave us super chats: Mexican Iron Man, Whiskey Jack, Gavin Blackburn, Joker Voice, Fluffy Panda, Scotty Dub, the Astro Nerd Boy, who killed
Awesome.
it. Like, he, for a brief moment, he was our top super chatter yet again. He held that top spot for quite some time. But then we've got even more people who kind of came in and gave him a run for his money. So I said Mexican Iron Man, Whiskey Jack, Gavin Blackburn, Joker Voice, Fluffy Panda, Scotty Dub. Scotty came in and freaking dethroned the Astro Nerd Boy after just like a couple minutes of being at the top dog. Scotty Dub, you are a true superstar hero. Big shout out to you.
He owns the Darksaber now.
Chris Retzloff, Son of John, JT Gunn, Denny Wright, John Kakaza, and E. Clay Thomason. Thank you all so much for your support. We really appreciate it. But again, another special shout out to both Astro Nerd Boy and Scotty Dub for yet more $100 super chats. You guys are freaking amazing. We love you. Really appreciate the support. We couldn't be doing what we're doing right now without the support of you guys and everyone else who gave us super chats. So thank you all so much for that. We really appreciate it. And thank you all who tuned in for the chat and just participated during the live stream. We love you guys. It's fantastic. And we look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Same salty time, same salty channel, possibly different salty crew makeup, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. You can always count on Brian to be here.
That's true.
And until then, stay salty, my friends.